Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. We've been waiting for you. We knew that you'd be back. We know that by now you've discovered there's no fear like the fear you can hear. And we're going to fill your ears with a story about the most basic fear of all, death. We're going to tell you a story about a man who dispenses death the way other men dispense haircuts. A man known in the parlance of the underworld as the Hitman. In case you're unfamiliar with criminal vocabulary, allow me to explain. A hitman is someone hired especially to terminate the life of someone else.
He's a killer, Connie. The guy's a hitman, a hired gun. He's come here to kill me.
No, he hasn't. Have you, Mr. Derry?
Who, me? Now, do I look like that sort of person, Mrs. Breach?
You don't look stupid, Mr. Derry. If you were going to kill my husband, you would have done it by now. Why haven't you?
Our mystery drama, The Hitman, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Henry Slesar and stars Mike Kellin. It is sponsored in part by Sign-Off, the sinus medicines, and new sugar-free diet 7-Up. I'll be back shortly with Act 1. Our story begins in a bus terminal of a large eastern city, a place of arrivals and departures. In the crowd, we can see a rather sallow young man searching every face and scowling at his inability to recognize the man he has come to find. But then, he doesn't know what Jim Derry looks like. Jim Derry tries not to make himself too visible a person. Mr. Derry has a very good reason. But now the young man spots someone pulling on a pair of light-colored gloves. And he recognizes the signal, if not the man.
Warm day for gloves, ain't it, mister?
I got cold hands.
Jim Derry?
Yes?
I'm Earl. What took you so long? Arnie said you'd be on the 2 o'clock bus. I've been hanging around this crummy terminal for an hour.
A gypsy told me never to take a 2 o'clock bus.
They didn't tell me you were a comedian.
What did they tell you about me, Earl?
Come on. Arnie's waiting.
So, this is Arnie's warehouse.
Oh, it's his warehouse, but he don't do much warehousing in it. Come on. His office is right here.
Yeah, who is it?
It's Earl, Mr. Harney.
Come in. You took your sweet time getting here.
Well, it wasn't my fault, Mr. Harney. He didn't show until 4 o'clock.
It's idea, Derry. I hire somebody, I expect a little punctuality.
Well, I told you he didn't have to go outside the organization. I could handle it for you, Mr. Harney.
I said shut up. I hate these family quarrels. Do you want to talk business now, or should I come back later? We talk now. Good. And give the kid a quarter and send him to the movies. Beat it, Earl.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Derry. The family quarrel's over. Now let's talk shop. Okay. My price is $3,000 for the hit. I do good, clean work, pick my own time and place, and never get my clients involved. How does that sound? Sounds fine. This is a private case. Strictly private. Guy named Eddie Breach. Breach used to work for me. Covered the best slice of territory in the city. His receipts were like $5,000 a week. Only they started to drop, understand? 4 1 week, 2 the next. Whole thing smelled bad. You don't mean he was a crook? I had him followed. Found out he was making book on his own, setting up his own shop. He was robbing me blind.
Who fingers him for me?
I'll finger him this afternoon. See if you can make it fast. And see that I'm kept out of it. That's all.
Not all, Mr. Harney. In cases like this, our company likes a deposit.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Here's the ground now. You get the rest when I read that obituary.
It's almost 6 o'clock. We've been staring at that apartment house for half an hour.
Now you know how I felt, Derry, waiting in that bus station.
I thought you said Breach should be home by now.
Oh, he'll be here. I've been clocking him 3 Fridays in a row. He takes his wife to see the doctor every Friday afternoon, and they get back around now.
You didn't tell me he was married.
What difference does that make?
I just hope he's insured. I like making rich widows.
Hey, there's his car.
Hand me those binoculars.
Don't forget to get a look at his wife. She's worth seeing, even if she is crippled.
What?
Look for yourself.
A wheelchair. He's taking a wheelchair out of the back.
She's got a nice pair of legs. Only they don't move.
Paralyzed?
That's right. Well, did you get a good look at him?
Yes, I got a good look. Let's go. How come Breach married a cripple?
He didn't.
That was no kiddie car he was pushing around.
That chick was in one piece when he married her. In fact, what happened to her was all his fault.
How do you mean?
I got into an argument one day and he belted her. She fell down a flight of stairs and busted something in her back.
He sounds like a real nice guy. It'll be a pleasure to do business with him.
Yeah, well, don't forget who you're doing it for. Harney's paying you for this job, not Mrs. Breach.
For her, I do it for love.
Good afternoon, mister. A lot cooler in here, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a refrigerator.
What are you having?
Making a beer.
Right.
I just hit this town yesterday. Still haven't found out where the action is.
So?
A friend of mine told me I might do myself some good here. You know anything about that?
Well, depends upon what kind of action you want.
I'm flexible. For instance, I wouldn't mind doing business with a horse or two.
I'm a bartender, not a bookie.
This friend of mine, he told me a guy hangs around here named Breach.
Eddie Breach?
That's him. He said Breach might be the firm to do business with. You know him?
Yeah, I know Mr. Breach. A nice guy. Comes in here sometimes with his wife.
His wife? In here?
Well, why not? I run a family place here.
What's Mrs. Breach like?
That woman is really something. She's a cripple, you know, in a wheelchair. But she never beefs about it. Best looking chick you ever saw, and she keeps right on smiling. Wheelchair and everything.
That's tough, all right. Wheelchair. It's like a stretch in prison.
Oh, she's lucky having a husband like Mr. Breach. He's real good to her. Buys her anything she wants. Takes her to the doctor every week.
The way I heard it, Breach is the one who put her in the wheelchair.
Well, I wouldn't know about that, but he treats her like a queen, I can tell you that. I mean, cripple or not, that is my idea of a happy marriage. Hey, you didn't touch your beer. Okay, Mr. Breach, get in the car.
Hey, what is this?
Get in that car, I said.
Okay, easy on the hardware. Who are you? What do you want?
Start your car, head west of the highway, and keep going until I tell you to stop.
Listen, you want my wallet, take it.
Start the car.
You don't work for Joe Harney, do you?
Keep driving.
I asked you a question.
I work for myself.
Look, if Harney did send you, let's talk about it. I'll pay you twice what he's giving you. Just tell me how much.
How do you know Harney wants you dead? Maybe it was your wife. Harney's not the only one who hates your guts.
Connie? You're crazy.
So that's her name, huh? Connie?
She wouldn't do anything like that. She needs me.
Needs you for what? Belt her again?
Who told you about that?
You must have been a pretty brave boy. Slugging a woman. That took guts.
I'm trying to make it up to her. For Pete's sake, will you give me a chance to make it up to her? That's why I need that money. That's the only reason.
So you did cheat Harney. You admit it?
I'd cheat my grandmother if it helped Connie.
Keep your eyes on the road, Eddie. All right. Take that next side road.
Listen, give me a chance to talk to you, will you?
That's what we're going to have, a talk. Go on, pull over there near the billboard. All right. Answer me one question. How were you helping her?
What?
How were you helping your wife? This doctor you see every Friday, did he say something could be done for her?
No. He never said that. The spinal cord is all busted up. All he can do is make her more comfortable.
So the sentence is life.
You think I don't feel lousy about it? I know it was my fault, but I didn't mean it.
She might be better off without you.
Maybe she would.
All right. Let's go.
Where to now?
We're going to your place.
Eddie?
Yeah, honey, it's me.
Oh, you didn't tell me you were bringing anyone here.
I decided not to go downtown. I ran into a friend of mine, and we got to talking.
My name is Derry, Mrs. Breach. Jim Derry. I'm sorry to bust in on you like this.
Oh, but I'm glad you did. Really. I love to see Eddie's friends. We don't do very much entertaining.
You got a nice apartment, Mrs. Breach.
Oh, thank you. I keep it uncluttered so I can scoot around easily in this wheelchair. My track record is 1 minute, 3 seconds from the living room to the bedroom to the kitchen.
That's quite a record.
Now, let me get you a drink. Eddie says I'm the best rolling bartender in town. Watch me.
Don't bother, Mrs. Breach. I don't drink.
Not on the job, right?
Oh, please, let me get you something. You see, I'm grateful to you, Mr. Derry. I was looking forward to a lonely evening when you came along. My husband usually works very late.
Honey, you look a little tired. Did you take your pills yet?
Oh, I'm fine, Eddie. Stop worrying about me. Please sit down, Mr. Derry. It's such a pleasure to talk to one of Eddie's friends.
Now, let's cut this out. He's no friend of mine. I never saw him before in my life.
What?
Tell her who you work for, Derry.
All right. At the moment, I work for a man named Joe Harney.
Harney?
That's right.
And what do you want from us?
I want us to sit down and have a talk.
I'm already sitting down, Mr. Derry.
Joe Harney isn't pleased with your husband, Mrs. Breach. He thinks he cheated him. Cheated him out of a lot of money.
Well, I'm sure that's not true.
I didn't cheat him. I just went into business for myself. I got a right to go into business for myself.
Yes, I know. It's called free enterprise. But just the same, Mr. Harney is very angry. He's not just angry, he's afraid. He's worried that if Eddie gets away with this, he'll set a bad precedent. So he only knows one remedy for the situation. And tonight, this could have been it.
A gun. Please. Put that away.
He's a killer, Connie. The guy's a hitman, a hired gun. He's come here to kill me.
No, he hasn't. Have you, Mr. Derry?
Me? Now, do I look like that sort of person, Mrs. Breach?
Well, you don't look stupid, Mr. Derry. If you were going to kill my husband, you'd have done it by now. Why haven't you?
I'll tell you why. Because he wants a deal. He wants me to pay him more than Harney's paying.
Oh, be quiet, Eddie.
Your husband isn't thinking straight, Mrs. Breach. It isn't that easy. You think that Harney will be satisfied if I let him live? If I walk off this job, somebody else walks in. This isn't the only gun in the world.
He's right, Eddie. Maybe the only way is to give him the money back.
There's nothing to give back. You think money stands still in this business? Look, maybe if we left town, went to Mexico or someplace.
Harney won't give up that easy. It means too much to him.
Well, I'm not staying here. I'm getting out. I'm getting as far away as I can.
Eddie.
Both of us, Connie. I meant both of us.
You expect me to run in a wheelchair? Maybe Mr. Derry can tell us what to do.
I can think of only one thing. Joe Harney wants a dead body. That's what we'll have to give him.
Well, we seem to have encountered a hitman with a heart. At least a hitman with a soft spot for a beautiful, afflicted young woman. But Jim Derry can't fail his assignment either. If he doesn't collect the rest of the money, he may be collected himself. We'll find out what happens to this strange threesome when I return shortly with Act 2. The hired killer of Eddie Breach sits in Mr. Breach's comfortable living room. But the gun, which was supposed to have done the deed, rests on the coffee table. And Jim Derry paces the carpet and talks to the loving couple about death.
It won't be easy, understand? But it's the only idea I got. The only thing that'll satisfy Joe Harney permanently.
What do you mean about a dead body?
I don't mean yours. I mean somebody else's. A body that could have been yours if the job had been done.
A substitute. But how is that possible?
There's a way. I have to stick my neck out to do it, and there'll be some expenses.
How much?
I'll have to let you know. Meanwhile, get ready to move and move fast. Have your bags packed and keep them ready. Get yourself some standby reservations. Mexico, Rio, any place you want. Don't make them in your own name. Oh, and one other thing. Don't leave the apartment for any reason.
But I gotta leave the apartment. I got business to do.
Business? Isn't your life more important?
You can't risk it. Harney hired me to take care of you, but that doesn't mean one of his goons wouldn't try to beat me to it. There's a kid named Earl.
Yeah, I know Earl. He's a punk.
Just the kind of punk who might try shooting you in the back.
Oh, do as he says, Eddie, please.
I tell you, I gotta get out. I need cash if we're to beat it out of town. I have to make collections.
Mr. Derry, wouldn't you help him? Maybe if he had a gun so he could protect himself, then...
You could lend me yours, Derry. Just until we leave town.
All right. Take it. I'll see what I can do. Okay. I'm leaving now. Just keep calm until you hear from me.
I'll see you to the door. Mr. Derry, why are you doing this for Eddie?
Because he's such a regular fella.
Figaro mortuary.
Fig, this is Jim Derry.
3 cheers. What are you doing back in town? You ain't been here in 10 years.
Business, Fig. I'm here on business. Just like in the old days.
The old days are over. I make more money legitimate now than I used to make crooked. For me, crime doesn't pay, like it says on the posters.
Well, this is legitimate. Almost. I want to make a purchase.
What kind?
You are the only store in town that has what I want, Fig. I want to buy a corpse.
I don't know what I'm doing this for. I must be getting soft in the head.
Tell me about the body, Fig.
He's a short, heavy cookie, maybe 50 years old, full of mustaches. What does that matter?
No, I guess it won't matter. Not after I get through with him. When can I take delivery?
Tonight. You could bring your car around to the back of my place, say, around 11 o'clock.
Okay, Fig. I'll be there. You sure there won't be any complications?
No, the guy doesn't have any family. He'll end up in the city cemetery anyway.
That's fine, Fig. That's just great.
Come on, Derry. Come on, level with me. What are you going to do with a corpse?
Who is it?
It's Jim Derry.
Eddie isn't here. He went out on business.
Would you rather I came back later?
Oh, no, of course not. Eddie should be home any moment. Come on in. He's been out raising money. It's wonderful how many people owe Eddie money. He's like a banker, really. You know what he tells his mother?
What?
He tells her he's an accountant. She's a sweet old lady. She knows the truth, but she never lets on.
And do you know the truth about him?
I never had any illusions about Eddie. Would you like a drink? Oh, sorry, forgot. You don't drink.
I'll take a beer if you have one.
Coming right up. Oh, maybe when we were first married, I had an illusion or two. It's easy when you're young, and you've got a nice straight spine.
You're still young.
Yes. Well, still that, I suppose. Oh, what do you know? No beer.
It doesn't matter. Does he leave you alone a lot?
Beg your pardon?
That banker husband of yours?
Oh, Eddie's a busy man. He doesn't have normal hours like other people. I don't suppose that you do either.
We're talking about Eddie.
You're curious about him, aren't you? Trying to make some moral judgment? To decide whether he's worth saving or not?
I've already decided that, haven't I?
Do you know about Eddie and me?
About the accident? Yes.
We were living in an old brownstone. Eddie was late. I was waiting for him at the top of the stairs with an argument all ready, and I said a lot of nasty things, and so did he, and he started to shake me, and I lost my balance. Well, how do they look?
Your legs? They look fine.
You'd never know they were dead, would you? You know something? I've got my own theory about you, Mr. Derry, about why you're helping us.
You do?
Mm-hmm. I've been a cripple for over a year, and I've become an expert on pity. I can spot pity half a mile away.
You think that's my reason?
That's everybody's reason.
It's me, honey. Sorry. Hello, Derry.
I just came to tell you that everything is set.
What does everything mean?
You are going to be a dead man by tomorrow morning. You can leave town as soon as you get on a plane.
There's one leaving for Mexico City at 4 tomorrow afternoon. We got reservations.
You better confirm them.
What's going to cost me what you're doing?
In cash, $1,000. $500 for me, $500 for a friend of mine. A couple of pieces of jewelry. And that car of yours.
My car? You can't take my car.
You won't need it in Mexico. They got donkeys.
Now, wait a minute.
Eddie, we've got to do as he says.
If you don't like my proposition, you can always say no. Then you can take your chances with Harney.
Okay. What else do you want?
I'll need your wallet, your watch, any other jewelry you carry. That wedding ring, is it inscribed?
Yes, I had it done.
Let's have it.
What's the idea of all this?
Your car is going to be in an accident tonight, Eddie. It's going to catch on fire. There'll be a body in the car, burned beyond recognition. But everybody will know who it is, of course. It'll have your wallet, your watch, your keys, your wedding ring.
But whose body?
Don't worry. The guy will be dead to begin with. It's only what you might call a cremation ceremony.
So Harney will think you did the job.
He'll only believe it if you get out of town as fast as you can. When that body is discovered, you are dead. I don't want you around making a liar out of me.
That's neat, Derry. Very neat. You still get paid that way, don't you?
Eddie.
Get me what I need, Eddie. The money and all the rest of the stuff.
What about your gun? You want that back?
Keep it as a souvenir. I never hold on to a piece after a job. And this job is just about over.
Hey, Derry.
What do you want, Earl?
Just want to give you a message. Mr. Harney isn't happy. Mr. Harney says he sort of expected some action by now.
Tell him to read the contract again. I picked my own time and place. It says so in the small print.
I thought you were supposed to be a pro. I would have had Eddie Breach stretched out and buried 2 days ago.
I'm sure of it.
And Harney's paying you $3,000? I would have done it for half the money.
You would have done it for laughs, Earl.
You know something? I ought to show him that he didn't need you. I ought to take care of Eddie myself.
Harney wouldn't like that. He's liable to spank. So long, Earl.
All right, Earl. Hold it. Right there. Hey, what do you guys want? I'm Lieutenant Gale, Police Department. What I want's very simple, Earl. I want you.
Here's the merchandise. Fresh from the freezer.
Thanks, Fig. I knew I could count on you.
You want to take a look at him?
No.
He ain't too pretty. I didn't get a chance to do any cosmetic work on him.
It won't make the slightest difference. Okay. Let's get him in the car.
Where are you taking him, Barry?
To the country.
Oh, boy. First time I ever heard of taking a stiff for a ride.
Okay, Mr. Nobody. Time for the ceremony. First, you gotta get behind the wheel. I'll dump your wallet in the clear. Now, here's your pretty jewelry. That ring is a tight fit. Now your keys, and that's about it. Except for that can of gasoline. There. That ought to be enough to make it hit the gas tank. Now all I need is a match.
And so Jim Derry has completed his assignment. He feels rather good about the job he did, too. It was a nice combination of human sympathy and profit. 500 from Eddie Breach, 3,000 from Joe Harney, and a sense of having done something worthwhile for a change. But will Jim Derry remain pleased with himself? What will the arrest of Earl do to his plans? We'll find out when I return shortly with Act 3.
This is WBBM Chicago.
Only one thing remains for Jim Derry to do. He has to make one final call on the man who brought him to town in the first place. He has a good report for Joe Harney. And Joe Harney has $2,000 waiting for him.
Yeah? Come in. Oh. So it's you.
How are you, Mr. Harney?
How do you think I am?
Anything wrong?
The cops picked up Earl on some old assault charge. That kid's more trouble than he's worth.
I could have told you that. Well, at least there's one problem he won't have anymore.
You mean Breach?
You won't be hearing from him again.
Give me details.
He's dead. That's a big detail.
I want to know how.
I got Breach to take me for a little ride in the country. When we stopped to look at the scenery, I slugged him. Then I gave his car a little gasoline bath.
You burned him?
You want to see what's left? Take a drive out on Route 7. Make a right on Potter Valley Road. There's not much to see, though.
What'd you do after that?
I took a nice long walk. There's a motel about a mile and a half south. I spent the night there. Didn't even get a chance to shave.
Huh. Sure it went all right? Nobody spotted you?
Our work is guaranteed, Mr. Harney. Money back if not satisfied. And speaking of money...
Yeah, I know. $2,000. And worth every penny of it. Excuse me. Your name James Derry?
Pardon?
I said your name James Derry.
Yes, it is. Why?
My name's Gear, Mr. Derry. Lieutenant Gear, Police Department. We got a warrant for your arrest.
Me? You gotta be kidding.
Step over here, Derry.
Hey, wait a minute.
Now, you know the routine, I'm sure. Hands flat, against the wall.
Whatever you say.
Well, not armed, I see.
Why would an innocent citizen be walking around with a gun?
This wallet of yours is sure loaded. What was it? Payday?
That's my traveling money.
You must be a high-priced man, Derry.
I sold a car for a guy. Second-hand sports job. That's the money he paid me for it.
Yeah, sure. And I'll bet you got a copy of the bill of sale, don't you?
Well, you give me a chance to get it, I'll...
We'll talk about it at headquarters. You ever use an alias, Derry?
No, what for?
You know a man named Joe Harney?
I met him once or twice.
What do you talk about?
The weather.
Now, don't be cute, Derry.
We talked about horses. Mr. Harney likes horses a whole lot.
Yeah, we know all about that. We also know that Joe Harney paid your way into town a little over a week ago. That right?
I can afford my own car fare, Lieutenant.
Harney brought you here to do a special piece of work for him, didn't he?
Wrong.
You see, Derry, there isn't very much we don't know about Joe Harney. For your information, the DA has been lining up a case against him for the last 6 months. You're hard luck that you came into the picture right now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, maybe I can make it a little clear. I got something I want to read to you. It's a statement from somebody you may know. Now, here it is. Listen carefully. This guy, Derry, arrived last Friday. He was brought in by Harney to cool a guy named Eddie Breach. Breach once worked for Harney, but then he got to taking bets on his own book. And that made Harney sore, so he decided to kill him. Derry's price for the job was $3,000. Derry was staying at a hotel called the Gracie. He didn't tell Harney how he planned to kill Breach. Well, how does that sound to you, Derry?
Like a fairy tale.
Is it true or not?
It's junk. They shouldn't make up junk like that.
It's a statement we got last night by somebody who worked for Harney for the last 2 years. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
His name's Earl Clifford. We picked him up in an old charge, one that could have sent him to the joint for a good 10 years. He's willing to turn state's evidence in the hope of getting a lighter rap. He probably will.
I never heard of Earl Clifford.
You can help yourself the same way, Derry. You can help by telling the truth.
I am telling the truth.
We want to know why you killed Eddie Breach.
Lieutenant, have you got the time?
What?
What time is it?
4:30.
4:30, that's what I make it to. And how is the weather out?
Still warm and sunny.
Good flying weather, huh?
All right, what's the joke, Derry?
The joke is over. I'm ready to tell you what I know, just as soon as I get a cup of coffee. Sure. I was hired to kill Eddie Breach. This guy, Joe Harney, called me and gave me the contract. I don't know why he picked me. I never did that kind of work before.
Sure, Derry. We know. Your hands are nice and clean.
Anyway, I came to see Harney. He told me the setup. Seen this guy Breach has been jabbing him for money, and he wanted him dead. Well, I said I'd do it.
I see.
Only I didn't mean it, Lieutenant. I'm no killer. Like you said, I'm clean. No record, nothing.
No convictions, no.
You know what I did? I went straight to Breach. I told him the whole story. Him and his wife. She's a cripple, you see, in a wheelchair. I felt sorry for her. For both of them.
We know about Mrs. Breach's condition. Go on.
I said I wouldn't do them any harm, but that didn't mean that they were safe. Harney would just hire somebody else to do the work.
That was very nice of you.
I wanted to help them, Lieutenant. I told them the only thing was to make it look as if Breach was killed. I said I could arrange the whole thing for them.
And that's what you did?
Yes, I got a body. A dead body from a funeral parlor I know. I put the body in Breach's car. I drove it out on Route 6, parked it on a side road called Potter Valley. I doused the car with gasoline. I set it on fire. You'll find Breach's watch and ring on that body. The wallet is in the grass someplace. Only the body isn't Eddie Breach's.
Well, that's quite a story, all right.
It's the truth. You send your boys out on Potter Valley Road.
We don't have to do that, Derry. We've already found Breach's car.
Well, swell, then you know I'm telling the truth. I mean, you got experts. They won't be fooled by a fake corpse. The guy was almost twice Breach's age. He was heavier, shorter.
Tell me honestly, Derry. You did all this because you felt sorry for the guy?
Yes. Look, I'm not saying he was an angel. He beat up his wife once. He made a cripple out of her. Only now, he's trying to help her. That's why he cheated Harney in the first place, to help his wife.
A real sweet guy, huh? Well, Derry, too bad it isn't true.
What do you mean?
Oh, Eddie was responsible for his wife's injury. We know that. Sure, he knocked her down a flight of stairs. But you know why?
They had an argument about coming home late.
Oh, no. They had an argument about a woman. She caught him in the apartment with a girl named Louise something.
She didn't tell me that.
And Breach didn't give up Louise after that either. He's been cheating on his wife ever since. The fact that she was in a wheelchair only made it easier.
No. I never knew about that.
But his wife knew, Derry.
What?
That was the tough part. Connie Breach knew all about it. And there was nothing she could do. Just had to sit there in that wheelchair and let him do whatever he pleased. That's your good friend, sweet Eddie Breach.
Well, she said she didn't have any illusions about him.
She knew what he was. Too bad you didn't.
All this time, she must have been hating him. Hating his guts. Anyway, they're gone now. They're on their way to Mexico City right now.
No, they're not.
Oh, yes, they are. They took a 4 o'clock plane.
You're a liar, Derry.
What are you talking about?
You tell a nice, touching story. But, Derry, you're a liar. You made a deal with Breach, all right, sure. He gave you $1,000, and you arranged this phony car accident for him. But you intended to collect from both sides, didn't you?
No, I was helping him get away.
Were you? Let me read you something else. Edward Breach, 29 years of age, male Caucasian, shot to death in his apartment at 404 East 75th Street.
What?
The bullets came from a Farrington .38, found at the scene.
That can't be.
We traced the gun to the man who sold it to you, Derry. He can describe you to a T.
Hey, wait a minute.
That's how you got that $3,000 from Joe Harney, by doing the job you were hired to do.
That's a lie. Breach took that plane, I tell you. He is on the plane.
He's in the morgue, Derry, where you put him.
It can't be true.
All right, Derry. I see you need a lot of convincing. Sam, send in Mrs. Breach.
Connie is here?
Right outside. Come in, Mrs. Breach.
Are you sure it's...
It's all right. Please come in.
Well, they didn't tell me that Mr. Derry would be here.
I'm really sorry to do this, Mrs. Breach, but it's really quite necessary. I want you to repeat exactly what you told me.
Yes. All right. I was in my bedroom last night around 7:30. I heard the doorbell ring, and my husband answered it. Eddie was always having visitors at all hours, so I didn't think anything of it, and then I heard 2 shots. I was frightened, but I opened the bedroom door and looked out. And that's when I saw him.
Saw who?
He was standing there, holding the gun. I screamed, and he dropped the gun on the floor and ran out.
It's all right, Mrs. Breach. It's all I wanted.
Please, can I go now?
Yes, ma'am. You can go.
Wait a minute. Now, Mrs. Breach, Connie.
How dare you call me Connie? You murderer.
That was your mistake, Derry. You should have killed her, too. You were just too soft-hearted.
Or maybe just forgetful, Lieutenant.
About what?
What they say about the female of the species.
And so the kind-hearted hitman falls victim to a revengeful woman. We can only hope that justice finally triumphed, that Lieutenant Gere eventually realized the truth about what happened in that apartment on East 75th Street. Although, who's to say that Mrs. Edward Breach isn't already in a prison of her own contrivance? I'll be back shortly. We hope you enjoyed this tale of the Radio Mystery Theater. If you come back next time, I'm sure we'll have another tale of murder, trickery, deceit, terror, and other goodies. Our cast included Mike Kellin, Alan Manson, Earl Hammond, and Lon Clark. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown.
Now, a preview of our next tale.
I picked up his top coat to hang it in the closet, and this fell out.
A lipstick.
Yes. Mandarin scarlet.
The same color the Ripper
To
uses.
scrawl those horrible messages like last night on the wall of Miss Mate's room.
Well, it seems to me you're letting your fears run away with you building up a case in your mind.
Well, what about last night? He just happened to come home minutes after the murder, he says.
And you think...
I think he was lying. I think he killed Miss Mapes, left by the fire escape at the end of the second-floor corridor, and then pretended he'd just arrived home. Claimed he'd forgotten his key, so he'd have a witness to prove an alibi if he needed one.
Oh, it's clever thinking, if that's so.
He's a clever man. Believe me, he is. And I'm afraid of him, Lieutenant, terribly afraid.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser, and Buick Motor Division. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams. Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. An ancient Chinese anecdote tells of a poor man who meets a philosopher. The poor man begs for charity. The philosopher says, "Look at that pebble." He points to a tiny stone. The stone turns to gold. The poor man says, "May I have something bigger?" The philosopher points to a rock, and it too turns to gold. The poor man again asks for something bigger. The philosopher points to a mountain. The entire mountain turns to gold. The poor man is still unhappy. Finally, the philosopher asks, "What do you want?" And the poor man replies, "I want your finger." The moral of this and the tale you're about to hear: You can't satisfy everybody.
No, don't come near me. Please, don't. You'll kill me.
Yes, I will. You can't get away.
Don't stick me with that.
It won't hurt.
I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
You should have thought of that before.
You, of all people, you know, there's no such thing as the perfect crime.
Well, that's nonsense, my dear. There are hundreds, thousands, for all we know, millions of perfect crimes. Why, every unsolved murder is a perfect crime. And yours wasn't even a murder. It will look like a perfect accident.
Our mystery drama, I Thought You Were Dead, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Sam Dann and stars Arlene Francis. It is sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser, and Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One. A statement, a slogan, should never be accepted merely because it is widely held and seldom challenged. For instance, they say, dead men tell no tales. But this is not necessarily so, as many a murderer has discovered, but too late. A dead man, especially a recently dead man, can tell a veritable anthology of tales to people like doctors and detectives. But what has all this to do with Jennifer Partridge? Jennifer Partridge, sleek, slender, sophisticated Jennifer. In exactly 10 seconds, the telephone will ring in Jennifer's elegant penthouse apartment, and Jennifer is going to speak to a dead man.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Jennifer?
Who is this?
Jennifer. Do you have to ask?
But it isn't. It can't be.
It is, Jennifer. It is.
No. What's the matter with me? It couldn't have been. It's crazy. How could it be Scott? I won't answer it. I won't. Yes, I will. Now listen here. What kind of obscene practical joke do you think this will...
Jennifer?
Oh, Paul.
Now, what was that all about?
Oh, some idiot.
Look, is everything all right?
Everything's fine.
You sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
Well, I called because I find I have to cancel your appointment for tomorrow afternoon. I'll have to leave town for a few days. When can we schedule another appointment for you?
When?
Well, I know how busy you are.
How about tonight?
Tonight?
Right now.
Let me see. Well, perhaps
Please,
I can...
Paul.
Suppose I come to your place.
Yes, Paul.
I'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you, Paul. Oh. The best thing is not to answer. Oh, Martin. Martin was supposed to call at 7:30. Yes, it must be Martin. Hello, Martin. Hello?
So, it's Martin.
See here. Whoever you are.
You know who I am. Martin's a moron. Yes, he's rich, but he's a moron. Do you mean you actually murdered me for Martin? You did, you know.
I didn't murder you.
Oh, that voice. The tremor in that golden voice. I can almost see the teardrops beginning to well in the corners.
Who are you? What do you want?
I'm Scott. I'm your husband, and your place is with me.
But you're dead.
Exactly. Exactly.
But Scott is dead.
I spoke with him twice.
It isn't possible.
Paul, I know Scott's voice.
A practical joker.
Someone could imitate Scott's voice, perhaps, but...
But what?
But not the way Scott talks. The way he forms those sentences. He has that whole circular way of...
The way Scott talks, how he forms sentences, he has that circular way. You realize you're using the present tense.
Because I just heard his voice.
Well, I'm sure you did.
Well, finally.
In your mind.
Oh, I see. I imagined it. That's what you're implying.
Well, there are all kinds of technical terms we might use to describe this phenomenon, but imagination is as good a word as any, and it really tells the story.
But I heard the phone ring. I answered it. It was Scott, and I hung up.
Yes, Jennifer.
Oh, please, no patronizing, please.
You and Scott, the love match of the century. Of course, you miss him, and so...
And so? What?
And so you actually did hear the phone ring. You actually did hear Scott's. And what did Scott say?
He accused me of murdering him.
Well, did you?
Did I what?
Do you think you murdered Scott?
You were there when Scott was killed. You know how Scott was killed. How can you ask if I killed him?
I didn't ask you if you killed him. I asked you if you think you killed him.
It was an accident. I wasn't even there.
That's not the issue. Perhaps you're thinking if you had been more diligent, more devoted, Scott might not have been there either.
I am trying to tell you, Paul.
Did the better one die? Now, in the year that Scott's been dead, how many stories have you sold?
Well, I haven't really been trying to...
Before you married Scott and began the famous Scott and Jennifer Partridge collaboration, how many stories had you ever sold on your own?
Well, I'm having it's a case of block. Writer's block. It happens now and then.
But you are writing. And Martin tells me he's having trouble. Editors complain something seems to be missing. People are starting to talk. Was Scott the real creative talent of the team?
It's a lie. Now, you may be one of America's top psychiatrists, but you are still a male chauvinist. You consider the fact of a man and woman writing team, and what is your automatic reaction? The man is the one who is the true talent.
I'm only trying to tell you...
Never mind that just now. Let's consider what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes?
I'm trying to tell you I heard Scott's voice on the telephone. Scott called me on the telephone.
And I am trying to tell you why you think... Well, who could that be? Now, go ahead, answer it.
Hello?
Hello. Doing anything, Jennifer? I thought we'd chat.
Just a minute. Paul, it's Scott. Pick up the extension. You'll see it's Scott.
There's no one on the line. It's just a dial tone.
But it was Scott. He hung up. He didn't want you to hear him. But he spoke to me. He spoke to me.
Jennifer, he's dead. Is that a fact?
But I tell you...
Is it a fact, yes or no?
Yes.
Then these conversations can only be taking place in your mind.
But it seems so real. So real. He looked deep into her eyes, into those smoldering, passionate eyes, and he knew. Now he knew. He knew how it could be possible for a man to sacrifice his honor, his career, his country. Have that, Miss Hewlett?
Yes, Mrs. Partridge.
To please read it back.
He looked deep into her eyes, into those smoldering, passionate...
Wait. The whole passage, it sounds familiar. It sounds as if...
Yes, Mrs. Partridge, now that you mention it...
Why should it sound familiar?
You and Mr. Partridge had written that same paragraph 5 years ago in Dead Man's Marriage.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's right. I simply have to get away from eyes. That was Scott's trick.
May I come in?
Absolutely not. I'm working.
How's it coming?
Splendidly.
Level with me?
Atrociously.
I think you're trying too hard.
What does that mean?
Just relax.
What did St. Clair think of the Merry Christmas caper?
He thinks you're trying too hard.
But I simply must...
You simply must what?
Get something published this year.
Why?
Isn't it obvious? People will say that Scott was the writer.
I don't know of anyone who's saying that.
But it's true.
Now, look, Jennifer, honey, just relax. You're nervous, high-strung. Just like a thoroughbred.
No, thank you. It's flattering to be compared with a horse.
Well, baby, you can compare an agent with a trainer. They both have to nurse some very temperamental stock. Tell you what we should do. Take 3 months off, get married, go on a cruise.
Martin, darling, we can't get married until I get something of my own published.
Okay.
I know you understand, darling.
I understand. I'm not going to win arguments with you, so I came with a suggestion.
Yes?
People who've worked together so closely, so long as you and Scott, become dependent on each other.
But I'm trying to prove that
Baby, sometimes you just got to listen. Because Scott died so suddenly, the break was so... Well, it was too abrupt, you know what I mean? You weren't prepared for it. Now, let Scott help you.
What? What are you saying?
The day Scott died, he told me he had just done a kind of treatment for a book called I Thought You Were Dead.
What?
You know how he was? He'd fill up a whole yellow pad with a storyline. Well, he said he just did something called I Thought You Were Dead. Why not finish it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What? You mean you're not aware of the story?
No, Scott never discussed it with me.
But he said he had written 11 yellow pages. He had the whole plot.
Miss Cullett?
Yes?
Have you seen 11 yellow pages? You know, the kind Mr. Partridge would do by hand?
Oh, no, Mrs. Partridge.
There.
But Scott said he wrote it up. Are you sure you haven't seen it, Miss Cullett?
No, sir. And I generally know where everything is.
Jennifer, you have to write it.
But, Martin...
Look, this whole thing is psychological. For years, you and Scott worked together. He became a habit with you. Well, not everybody can quit a habit cold turkey, so move away from him gradually. See what I mean?
But we don't even know where the outline is.
It has to be in the house. We'll turn the place inside out and upside down. We'll find those 11 yellow pages. Now, let's start looking.
I can tell you, Martin, no one will ever find them. Because long ago they had been reduced to ashes. No earthly power can ever recreate them into Scott's original yellow pages. I burned them, destroyed them completely. I had to. Because otherwise, people might discover how I murdered Scott.
The Partridges, Scott and Jennifer. Year after year, best-selling novels and award-winning stories would stream from their typewriter. Why should she murder the source of all her wealth? Why? Simple. Didn't you ever hear the story of the goose that laid the golden eggs? We'll have some interesting little nuggets for you when I return shortly with Act 2. Yesterday, the phone rang, and Jennifer Partridge answered it. It was her husband, Scott. They chatted briefly, and then Jennifer hung up. But everyone knows that Scott has been dead for over a year. Of course, what everyone doesn't know is that Jennifer murdered him.
The sun rose, finally. At first, a pale rose glow on the distant eastern horizon. No, No distant eastern horizon. What an indigestible mouthful that is. Damn. Oh, descriptive narrative came so easily to Scott. Why do I have to worry about the sun rising in the distant eastern horizon? I'll just say, the next day. The next day. Oh, it's so abrupt. Say, don't you hear that damn phone, Miss Culis?
But, Mrs. Partridge, you always insist on answering the phone yourself.
Pick it up.
Well, yes, ma'am. Hello?
Hello, is that you, Miss Kellin?
Yes, sir?
Is Mrs. Partridge there?
It's Mr. Evans. Are you here, Mrs. Partridge?
No.
No, Mr. Evans. Mrs. Partridge has gone out this morning.
Tell her to get on the phone.
But she isn't here.
Tell her I have news from St. Clair.
He has news from Mr. St. Clair, Mrs. Partridge.
All right, I'll take it on my extension. Yes, Martin.
Oh, I see you came back.
Martin, I do not like to be disturbed while I'm working.
What are you working on?
Something new?
Drop it.
What?
I had breakfast with St. Clair.
Martin.
I told him you found an outline Scott had prepared before he died.
But I didn't find it.
I told him the title. I thought you were dead. St. Clair flipped.
But I don't know anything
he
about
on signing
it.
a contract.
But,
He's been on the phone to the West Coast. How do I know? Go ahead, ask me.
Martin, you must listen.
I already got a call from one studio, and you know what time it is out there? 7 o'clock in the morning.
Martin, I haven't found the story.
Honey, you'll find it. The bidding has begun, and it's already gone past $1 million. You mean between you and that Miss Culet, you can't find that story? Drop what you're doing and look. But you'll find those 11 pages.
Martin. Oh, Martin.
I've looked everywhere, Mrs. Partridge, but I was unable to
Yes, well, we'll just have to keep at it. Now, where were we?
Oh, the opening paragraph, the sun rose.
No, make that the next day. I don't know. I'm in no mood to... I can tell this is going to be one of those mornings. Look, Miss Culick, why don't you take some time off? Drive into town.
I could look for those 11 pages.
Where? We've just about torn the whole place apart.
Well, then why don't I dust and clean some of Mr. Partridge's trophies and things?
If you like.
Some of the guns and knives should be oiled.
Well, make sure you're very careful. Actually, we should have a gunsmith or someone like that come in.
I don't mind it at all, Mrs. Partridge, and I know how to do it.
Very well. Tell Mrs. Mason to have lunch ready at 12, and that could give us a long afternoon for work.
Yes, Mrs. Partridge. I really don't understand it.
What's that?
Mr. Partridge, he was such a methodical man. You know, a place for everything and everything in his place.
Yes, I remember. That little homey cliche used to drive me wild sometimes.
Now, every time he would finish writing his notes or whatever on his yellow pad, he would always tear off the pages and put them in his right-hand desk drawer.
Yes, well, they must be around somewhere.
But it's so unusual. I've looked everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, you recall the Edgar Allan Poe story about the missing letter? Was in the middle of the room, in full view all the time? I'm sure that's what we're dealing with here, too.
Yes, Mrs. Partridge.
All right. All right. I'm not afraid. Hello?
Hello, darling.
Scott?
Yes, darling. It's Scott.
Who are you? What do you hope to gain by...
Dearest, I miss you.
What are you after?
Have you won the Nobel Prize for Literature yet? Now you're listening. Now you're willing to believe.
I am not willing to believe.
But Scott would know. I held you back, yes. I kept you from expressing your genius. I restricted you to trivial little detective potboilers. I made you fritter away your talent.
Scott!
Well, express yourself. Oh, you fool, you adorable fool. Neither of us can make it without the other.
All right. Whoever you are, you have a game. You want something. What is it?
I want you, Jennifer. I love you. We were so good together in every way.
What do you want?
You refuse to believe I'm Scott.
So now you caught me off guard yesterday, and I was feeling low. But today I can laugh at a practical joke, even if it is in horrible taste.
Do you want me to prove I'm Scott?
How could you prove?
Who but Scott would know why you destroyed my yellow page outline? You're listening. You're listening now, aren't you?
I don't even know. I don't know what outline you're talking about.
How she kills her husband. And I left it lying around. I didn't think you'd use it to kill me.
I didn't.
Well, it doesn't matter now, darling. It doesn't matter. I've already forgiven you. We need each other. We're incomplete apart. I can't come to you.
No.
Therefore, you must come to me.
I didn't kill you.
Must I tell you how you killed me?
No.
Perhaps I'd better.
No.
You seem to have forgotten.
Please.
That morning, I had a date to go duck hunting with Paul and Martin and...
No, don't.
And I took the 12 gauge and...
No. No.
You know you have to answer, darling. You know. Don't ever hang up on me again. I'll keep calling back. Now I must tell you how I died.
No, I'm just losing my mind.
But that morning, before I left home, you inserted a little transparent plastic ring down the barrel in front of the chamber. And so when I pulled the trigger, naturally, the gun exploded in my face.
No!
Miss Hewlett found you lying on the floor.
Oh, it's Scott, Paul, I tell you. Is it Scott?
Jennifer, I think you need a rest.
Of course I do, but that won't solve the problem. Now, please, stop fighting me.
I can't indulge you in this childish fantasy.
But let me tell you why it is Scott. Just listen. Not only is it Scott's voice,
which an actor can imitate,
but it is Scott's diction, his idiom.
Also well known from Scott's writing and broadcasts.
But there are things that were known only to Scott and me. How we felt about our writing and the quarrels that we had, and even...
Yes?
Even an outline that no one else could know about.
Well, I knew about it. Scott mentioned it to me and to Martin that morning.
Well, you too. You were the only ones who knew.
All right, Jennifer. Let's face it. These conversations, they really are taking place, but in your mind.
Paul, you simply have to believe that Scott is on the telephone.
Guilt and remorse. First, you thought Scott was holding you back, getting a free ride on your talent.
I never said...
You're talking to me, Jennifer. You wanted to be free of him, an accident happened. Scott was killed. Your wish came true.
I never wanted Scott to
Not
be killed.
consciously. But when he died, that wish did come true. But you were wrong. You can't work without Scott.
But I spoke to Scott.
I'll tell you who's on the end of that phone. I'll tell you to whom you're speaking. To your guilty conscience. Admit it. And then face it and fight it.
I can write without Scott. You believe it, don't you, Paul? I mean, you do. You believe it?
Of course you can. But you can't work here, not in this house.
Why?
Well, this isn't a home, it's a museum. Every room is dedicated to Scott. Weapons, souvenirs, pictures.
Scott always insisted on having the things he wrote about in front of us all the time. If we were going to poison someone, we'd have that bottle in front of us with the poison in it, and we'd fill the bottle and we'd make it mean something dynamic. And that's why we have all these things, all these spears and these knives and these guns and everything.
I agree. Realism is great. But get rid of everything in this house that you can associate with Scott.
See, I still love Scott.
Clear the house of all this junk.
But how can I part with the things that have...
You'll never be free of Scott as long as everything around you reminds you of Scott.
Oh. Well,
Maybe, Paul. You may just have something.
Another thing. You might get rid of Miss Hewlett.
Miss Hewlett? But she's a perfect gem.
And she's one of the reasons you're trying too hard.
Miss Hewlett? Why, most of the time I hardly know she's there.
And I'm afraid, subconsciously, you're thinking she's comparing you with Scott.
Oh, that's true. That is true, and I never thought of it. But, I mean, she's given us 10 faithful years. How do I know. I'll tell her I'm going on a long trip. And I'll give her a year's pay. 2 years' pay.
Be generous and be kind. Just remember, for years now, she's had no other life except working here for you and Scott.
Yes, I'll be very considerate of her feelings. The poor thing. And so it might very well be a year before I come back, Miss Hewlett.
I understand, Mrs. Partridge.
And if you should like to, go to work again soon, why, Mr. Evans knows of a great many interesting openings.
Oh, that would be very kind of him.
I'll miss you very much.
No, ma'am, you won't miss me too much.
I mean that, Miss Hewlett.
You won't miss me, because I'm not going anywhere.
What did you say?
Oh, I believe you heard what I said, Mrs. Partridge. I have no intention of leaving this house.
Now, what's this? What makes Miss Hewlett think her employer can't fire her? To say I have no intention of leaving this house. Meek, Miss Hewlett? We will have to hear some more from Miss Hewlett before we can properly evaluate this latest development. And we shall, when I return shortly with Act 3. For 10 years, mild, modest, and self-effacing Miss Hewlett has been secretary to the Partridges, Scott and Jennifer. Now Jennifer's doctor has ordered Jennifer to revamp her entire life. Get rid of everything that could remind her of Scott. Everything and everyone. But the most astounding thing has just happened. Mousy Miss Hewlett refuses to be fired.
I am not sure I heard what you said, Miss Hewlett.
I said I have no intention of leaving this house. That outline Mr. Partridge wrote, those 11 pages of handwritten notes.
Well?
I found them.
You found them?
Yes, Mrs. Partridge.
But that's
impossible. Were you going to say impossible? I know. You destroyed them. But I found them before you burned them. And I made a copy.
I see. What do you want, Miss Hewlett?
The notes explain how a man was killed when his wife tampered with the chamber of his shotgun.
That's not proof that
Let's think for a minute and decide what it is. Your husband's shotgun exploded in his face, killing him. He had written a story explaining how it could be done. You tried to destroy that story. I will testify that you and he fought.
We had the normal disagreements any husband and wife have.
For 10 years, I sat in this office like another chair, a piece of furniture. The invisible Miss Hewlett. I was a machine and took down everything each of you said, and you said everything in front of me. Everything, as if I didn't exist.
What do you want?
I want things as they are right now.
I don't know what that means.
I want you to keep living in fear, filled with fright, worrying, wondering what I'm going to do about you.
That's all you want?
It's enough.
Why? What did I ever do to you?
What did you ever do to me? Oh, how dare you ask that?
I ask because I don't know.
You killed the man I loved.
The man you loved?
You killed Scott Partridge.
He didn't even know you were alive.
Does that matter? Can you live without the sun? Does the sun know you're alive?
You loved Scott?
Love? Oh, what a weak, fragile word. I adored him. I worshipped him. And you killed him. You killed him.
I don't believe you.
Why did I stay here all these years? Yes? What's that, Mrs. Mason? The moving men? To do what? Oh, no. No, there must be some mistake. I will ask Mrs. Partridge. Mrs. Partridge, Mrs. Mason says movers are here to take away all of Mr. Partridge's things. Is that true?
Yes?
Oh, no. No, I won't permit it. Mrs. Mason, dismiss those men. Mrs. Partridge has just changed her mind.
Now, see here, Miss Culett.
I'll bring those notes to the police station. I'll swear you threatened to kill him. Nothing in this house must ever be changed. Do you understand? This place, it must remain a shrine to his memory.
No, I don't care. I know I'm better. I was always better. I'll kill her. I'll kill her too. No, don't ring. No, I won't answer. No, I won't. I won't answer.
Jennifer.
Hello. No,
Jennifer.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Jennifer, wake up.
You're not.
Jennifer, wake up.
No. Oh, Paul.
You were having a nightmare.
No, I was trying to put some notes together, and I just must have fallen asleep. But what are you doing here?
Well, I happened to be in the neighborhood. I thought I'd stop in and check on you. Now, Jennifer, what's the meaning of all this?
All what?
Well, I thought we'd agreed to transform this house from a museum, from a memorial to Scott, into a home for you. Well, and Miss Culett, she's downstairs cleaning a revolver. Why is she still here?
Because.
Yes, because?
Because that's how I want it.
Something's not right. The way Miss Culett smiled at me when I came in here today.
Yes, Miss Culett.
As if she knows something. But that's not what I find strange.
Miss Culett. Hidden facets in Miss Culett.
It's not so much that I noticed the smile. It's not the fact. It's the fact that I noticed Miss Culett. That's it. I noticed Miss Culett. Jennifer, why didn't you fire her?
Because I choose to keep her.
There's something about that woman.
I'll deal with Miss Culett.
What does that mean?
Look, let me go back to work.
Jennifer, the wastebasket is overflowing.
I'm going to keep trying.
Well, try to analyze your problem. What's blocking you? Do what Scott would do.
Don't you dare mention his name.
Learn from Scott. When faced with a problem, how would Scott approach it?
Scott would say 3 magic words.
And what were they?
Who, why, how. Who, why, how. Every good story must have a strong who, a logical why, a believable how. That's the telephone.
Shall I answer it?
No. Because if you answer, there'll be no one on the other end. Let me. Hello?
Hello, darling.
Scott.
Jennifer, it can't be Scott.
How's the writing coming, darling?
Who, why, how? Jennifer, you know the how. It's Scott's voice on the phone. Now discover the who and the why.
The who and the why.
What was that, darling?
The who and the why. You remember who, why, and how, don't you, Scott?
Dearest, I don't remember.
Yes. You are a phony. And the little game is over. And it nearly destroyed my mind. But no more. Miss Hewlett, I would like you to take some dictation. I found another outline Mr. Partridge had done some time ago.
Oh?
Are you ready?
Oh, yes, indeed.
He calls this, If I Loved You Twice as Much, You'd Be Half as Dead.
Oh, poor darling Mr. Partridge. He would always begin every treatment with a joke.
Now he sets it up. Husband, wife, secretary. Secretary idolizes husband. Husband idolizes wife. Wife hates husband. Wife murders husband. Are you getting all this?
Oh, yes.
Secretary decides to drive wife insane. Secretary hires actor to impersonate husband's voice on phone.
He wrote that?
Secretary knows all the inside, intimate details of husband-wife relationship. Coaches actor so he can sound authentic.
Yes.
Wife believes actor is husband until...
Until what?
Don't you know?
How would I know?
Until wife discovers secretary is behind it all. Then...
Then what?
Then wife kills secretary.
How?
Like this.
No. Don't touch me with that. Don't touch me. No. Oh, no. Oh, get me to a doctor. You killed me.
Of course. This dart, the tip, is covered with...
I know. Oh, please, call the doctor. I'm getting dizzy.
Poison. Curare. Scott and I used it as the gimmick in our South American jungle mystery.
Please, call the doctor.
He could do nothing for you now, you little fool. It was a good try. You did hire an excellent actor. I compliment you.
I didn't hire anyone.
Forget it.
But I didn't.
What do you mean you didn't hire anyone? Who else if it wasn't you?
It wasn't me.
Then who? Why? How? Miss Hewlett! Miss Hewlett! Answer me! Hello?
Darling.
No.
Why did you kill her, poor thing?
Oh, please. Who are you?
Who else could I be? Scott?
Scott!
Darling, you killed so quickly for such trivial reasons. Poor girl, she'd have done you no harm. Me... Couldn't you be generous enough to share part of the fame with me?
Scott, if I could only do it over again.
You do everything the same way. It's how you're made.
Scott, what's going to happen to me?
You can't make it on your own, sweetheart. You need me.
Scott, I need you so badly.
Darling, you know the pills we used in Murder of the Month?
No.
Just one pill. You'll go quickly, easily, no pain. You'll just fall quietly, pleasantly asleep.
I'm afraid.
But I'll be with you. Now put the phone down. You'll still hear my voice.
Yes.
The bottle is on the shelf. That's right. Open it. Fine. Take one pill, one smooth little red-coated pill. Now place it in your mouth. That's a fine peppermint taste. So refreshing. Now, sit in the easy chair.
Oh,
Scott. I'm so sleepy.
Now close your eyes, dear.
Mm-hmm.
And soon we'll be together again.
Scott?
Hello, darling. Hello.
And hopefully they are together again. Not just the two of them, but the three of them. After all, they need Miss Culett, too. And they're probably writing mysteries upstairs for the heavenly version of Mystery Theater. So when you go to your just reward, you won't have to miss your favorite program. Well, tonight we did more than just entertain you. We also taught you one of the tricks of the trade. Who, why, how. Those are the three magic words. Our cast included Arlene Francis, Mary Jane Higby, Robert Dryden, and Guy Sorel. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown.
Now, a preview of our next tale.
It isn't my father's body.
Now.
Edward, I tell you, it isn't. You knew my father. He was much taller, and he was thin.
By heaven, you're right. But this makes no sense at all. It's his head.
Yes, it is. I'm going to faint.
Outside, quickly. I'll join you.
Miss, what is it, miss?
Something horrible. Horrible.
Oh, what, miss, what?
I don't dare say it, Hobbs. I don't dare think it.
Mr. Somerset, sir, what is it? What is it in there?
The thing in the coffin. It's Sir Simon's head, but not his body.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division and Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, brewers of Budweiser. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams. Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Welcome to the wonders of your own imagination. For although I'm about to tell you a horror story, it is really your imagination that will bring it to life for you. I shouldn't even say I will tell it, for it's really the story of Edward Somerset, as recounted in his private journal dated London, 1874. A truly harrowing account of what took place at Moorland Manor.
There'll be no need for me to enter the crypt, I trust.
I don't believe so. Edward?
No. The will merely states that the coffin was to be left open for a week and food and water left nearby.
The master was always afraid of being buried alive. Deathly afraid.
As many are. It's an all too common occurrence in these times. But no, you needn't enter the crypt, Hobbs. Miss Trezilian must do that. And I must accompany her. The will demands it.
Our Our mystery drama, The Headstrong Corpse, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by George Lowther and stars Suzanne Grossman and Gordon Gould. It is sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division and Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser. I'll be back shortly with Act One. As you may know, it's a custom of mine, a hobby, if you will, to read old diaries and journals, the accounts of lives written down by people long since dead and in their graves. Recently, I had the good fortune to come across the journal of a certain Edward Somerset, a young London lawyer, barrister, the English would say, who tells a grisly tale of what took place at Moorland Manor in the year 1874. According to Edward Somerset, but no, let him tell the story in his own words, just as he recorded it in his journal.
And so, this being the appointed day, I took the coach to the village of Burley, 20 miles south of London in Kent, and in spite of the storminess of the weather, made the trip in less than 4 hours. I found Margaret Trezilian, the girl I loved devotedly, but who, alas, shall never be mine, in a terrible state of nerves.
Edward, how glad I am to see you.
And I you, my darling, though I feared you'd not welcome the sight of me.
Oh, darling, if only I'd never consented to marry Richard Westmore, never given my promise.
You had no choice.
Is there no escape, no way out?
Only if Dr. Westmore releases you from your promise, rescinds the marriage contract you and your father signed.
He'll never release me. In fact, he's coming for the weekend. He'll be here this evening to set the date for our marriage.
Perhaps if I were to have a talk with him. Now, what's all that?
Hobbs and Mrs. Murchison having another of their quarrels.
Mr. Hobbs, is that?
Oh, no, it isn't, Mrs. Murchison. By no means.
Oh, we'll see, Mr. Hobbs. We'll see. Miss.
What is it now, Mrs. Murchison? Since we buried my father a week ago, you and Hobbs have quarreled without let-up. What is it this time?
It's him and his lofty airs. That's what it is. Sir Simon was hardly cold in his coffin before Hobbs began lording it over me and the other servants. Now your father is dead, he seems to feel he's in charge.
I am. That's the way Sir Simon would have wanted it. Oh, begging your pardon, miss, but as you know, I was butler and personal servant to your father before you were born. I've been with this family many years, most of my life, in fact.
Whatever this disagreement between you and Mrs. Murchison may be, we'll discuss it another time. At the moment, we must go to the crypt. Fetch a lantern so you can light the way. Well, why do you stand there?
Oh, there'll be no need for me to enter the crypt, I trust.
I don't believe so. Edward?
No. The will merely states that the coffin was to be left open for a week and food and water left nearby.
The master was always afraid of being buried alive. Deathly afraid.
As many are. It's an all too common occurrence. But no, you needn't enter the crypt, Hobbs. Miss Trezilian must do that. And I, as a representative of the law firm of Costain and Lorring, must accompany her.
Ah, yes, sir, but when it comes to putting the lid on the coffin and screwing it down...
I'll do that, since it seems to trouble you.
Oh, thank you, sir, and I'll fetch the lantern.
You may go, Mrs. Murchison. We'll discuss this matter later.
Very well, miss. But Hobbs is becoming... He has become impossible. Oh, now, who could that be on such a day as this?
Whoever it may be, let him in out of the storm, Mrs. Murchison.
Yes, miss, at once.
Oh, thank you, Murchison, thank you. Frightful day. Soaked to the skin.
Lord Burley, what brings you out on such a day?
Well, all days are good days for business, my dear.
Business? Oh, I apologize. I haven't introduced you. This is Mr. Edward Somerset of Costain and Lorring, my father's solicitors.
How do?
Edward, Lord Burley.
How do you do, sir?
You're here on business, you said?
To be exact, to make another offer for Moorland Manor, my dear.
You've chosen a bad time, my lord. Though, really, any time would be bad. As my father told you more than once, I think, Moorland is not for sale.
Wrong tense, my dear. It wasn't for sale, but it is now. Or I happen to know soon will be.
What gives you that idea, Lord Burleigh?
Excuse me, Miss...
Hobbs has brought the lantern, Edward. Lord Burleigh will have to excuse us.
I had forgot. This is the day, and no doubt the time, for paying a visit to the family crypt, eh? Your father had a fear of being buried alive. Well, I'm sure you'll find him dead enough.
May I ask how you happen to be so well acquainted with the private affairs of Moorland Manor? How do you know this is the day we were to visit the crypt?
There's little goes on in Burleigh, in the county and at the village, sir, that I don't know. Good day to you, sir. And you'll be hearing from me again, Miss Tressilian.
Terrible man.
Certainly is. Well, Margaret, it's time.
Yes.
Hobbs, lead the way. Here we are. I'll open the door. Give me the lantern, Hobbs, and wait here.
Oh, yes, sir.
Come, Margaret.
Edward, I can't enter that awful place again.
I'm afraid you must. It was your father's wish.
So cold. Damp, so... Oh.
There's the open coffin. Let me just shine the lantern inside it to be sure your father's body is still there. Yes, it is. Look, Margaret.
Yes. The body's there.
Go outside now. I'll put the lid on the coffin and screw it down.
All right. I'll wait for you with Hobbs until you... Edward.
What is it?
There's something strange here. Something curious. The clothes on the body.
The clothes?
That isn't the suit we buried my father in. In fact, Edward... Oh, good Lord. It isn't my father's body.
Now, Margaret.
Edward, I tell you, it isn't. You knew my father. He was much taller, and he was thin.
By heaven, you're right. But this makes no sense at all. It's his head.
Yes, it is. I'm going to faint.
Outside, quickly. I'll join you.
Miss, what is it, miss?
Something horrible. Horrible.
Oh, what, miss, what?
I don't dare say it, Hobbs. I don't dare think it.
Mr. Somerset, sir, what is it? What is it in there?
The thing in the coffin. It's Sir Simon's head, but not his body.
Not his body?
Someone cut his head off, stole his body, and put another in its place.
Incredible. Utterly incredible, Somerset.
Dr. Westmore, what I've just told you, I saw with my own eyes. So did Margaret. In fact, she was the one who first noticed it was the wrong body.
Where is she?
Resting. Or perhaps I should say recuperating. It was an awful shock for her.
Oh, no doubt. Have you notified the police?
No.
Well, why not, man?
There's only a constable in the village, and I've heard he's anything but competent. I intend to send a message to the London police by coach tomorrow morning.
Well, better still, I'll take it for you.
I'd rather not wait till you leave on Monday.
Oh, I'll not be staying the weekend now. Margaret will be in no mood or condition to discuss our wedding plans. And as a surgeon at London Hospital, I have much to do. No point wasting my time here.
You don't exactly sound like a man in love, Dr. Westmore.
In love?
With Margaret, of course.
But I'm not. Nor is she with me. It's all purely a financial arrangement, you understand.
Well, no, I didn't quite.
Oh, but of course. An arrangement I made with Sir Simon. He was a very ill man for nearly a decade. He sought my rather special services, if I may say so. But as you know, Moorland is mortgaged to the hilt, and he was unable to pay.
In return, he offered you his daughter's hand in marriage?
And Moorland Manor. Even though the estate is heavily mortgaged, it'll give me a tidy sum.
A fortune, in fact, once I sell it. Now, look here, let's go down to the crypt. I want to see for myself.
I'll ring for Hobbs first. You say you're not in love with Margaret?
Not in the least.
I am.
Oh, are you indeed?
And she's in love with me.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know quite how to ask this, except to ask it. Will you release Margaret?
Why, of course not.
Even if... Oh, Hobbs.
You rang, sir?
Yes. Dr. Westmore and I want to go down into the crypt. Bring a lantern, will you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and tell Mrs. Murchison she can serve tea in half an hour.
Yes, sir.
As I was saying, Doctor, even if Margaret signed over all right to moorland to you...
Why should I bargain for what will be mine once we marry?
And if she refuses to marry you?
Well, she won't. Margaret is a woman of honor.
What do you know of honor, Dr. Westmore?
Now, if you mean to insult me, Somerset...
I mean to give you the truth. I've had you investigated, Doctor. Quietly, but thoroughly. I happen to know that you have twice been brought before the Royal College of Surgeons on charges of conduct unbecoming a physician. Charges which could not be proved for lack of evidence.
I was not guilty.
That you are presently under investigation by the same College of Surgeons who this time do have the evidence to revoke your license. And will, Dr. Westmore, because you are considered unworthy of the name doctor and will be barred from medical practice.
You have been thorough, Somerset. Perhaps, under the circumstances, you'd prefer I went down the crypt without your company.
I'd better go with you, since one of the charges against you is that of body snatching. I'll take the lantern, Hobbs. You wait here.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Oh, and you told Mrs. Murchison about tea.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but I couldn't find her about.
What do you mean? She must be somewhere in the house.
No, sir. At least I was unable to find her, and you did want the lantern right away, sir.
No matter. This way, Westmore.
Those coffins, stacked one on top of another. Their occupants have certainly been dead for years.
Some of them for nearly a century.
Curious. That's Sir Simon's coffin there, the one with the lid off?
Yes. And as you can see, the body isn't that of Sir Simon, but...
Good Lord! What in the name of... Here, raise the lantern. Let's have some more light. You did say the head was Sir Simon's?
It was.
But this is the head of a woman.
Katie.
Katie?
Katie Johnson. The maid.
What's this? Well, it's incredible. First, if I'm to believe you, Sir Simon's body was exchanged for another, and now his head? Is this some sort of a joke?
I don't think so, Westmore. But if it is, it's the joke of someone gone mad. Stark mad.
A baffling mystery, wouldn't you say? You might even call it Hetty. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. Edward Somerset's Daily Journal recording what took place later on is even more baffling, and I'm afraid more ghastly. Most of this strange story, the body of it... There I go again. All I meant to say was, there's more to come. And so, I'll be back shortly with Act 2. The world is filled with all sorts of shocking things. But I must confess that even I, somewhat of a connoisseur of the shocking, was totally stunned by Edward Somerset's account of what happened following the gruesome discovery that Sir Simon's head had now been replaced by Katie Johnson's. If I was appalled merely in reading about what had taken place, the feelings of those who actually lived through these ghastly events can be imagined.
But where is my father's body, head and body? Whose body is it in the coffin? Who killed Katie Johnson, severed her head from her body, and put it in my father's coffin? What?
Margaret, I beg you, enough. I can't answer even one of your questions, let alone a dozen.
I didn't ask a dozen, Edward.
You needn't snap my head off.
No. We're all somewhat nerved up.
Talk. We sit here talking when we should be doing something.
Perhaps you have a suggestion, my dear Margaret?
At least one murder has been committed in this house. Possibly two. Katie Johnson and whoever's body that is in my father's coffin. Shouldn't we notify the police?
The village constable is worse than useless. Dr. Westmore has offered to take a message to the London police when he leaves in the morning.
You'll not be staying the weekend?
I may soon cease to be a doctor, Margaret. Certainly if the College of Surgeons rescinds my license. But I still retain some remnants of the gentleman. You are certainly in no mood to discuss our wedding plans.
Neither now nor at any other time.
Ah, well, you have no choice there.
Perhaps she does. Or could have, if, as you say, you do retain some gentlemanly qualities.
You refer to the suggestion you made earlier, just before we went down into the crypt.
Yes.
What suggestion?
That Westmore release you from your pledge to marry him in return for Moorland Manor. Which, after all, is really what he wants.
Not quite, my dear fellow. Not altogether quite.
What do you mean? If you don't love Margaret...
Love has nothing to do with it. It's a matter of convenience and what is best for me.
I don't understand.
Well, you would if you'd allow me to finish. Once my license to practice medicine is revoked, and it will be this time, I'm sure, I shall go into business. Contacts, important contacts, are vital to business success. And the making of contacts requires a good deal of entertaining. So you see, I shall need a wife to fill the role of hostess. Does that answer you?
Yes, I guess it does.
I beg your pardon, Miss Margaret.
Oh, Hobbs, yes.
You asked me to find out where Mrs. Murchison had got to, and I have, miss.
Where did you find her?
In the kitchen, sir, where she claimed she'd been all the time. Only she hasn't.
Did you tell her I want to see her?
Yes, miss, he did. And I came straight along.
Where have you been the past hour?
In the kitchen, miss. Preparing tonight's dinner.
Mrs. Murchison, more than an hour ago, I asked Hobbs to let you know he wanted tea, and he couldn't find you.
Well, I don't know why not, Mr. Somerset. I've been in the kitchen all that time. And as for tea, there was no need to give me an order. Tea is always served in this house at 5.
Then why didn't you serve it?
Too busy getting dinner, miss. I gave Katie instructions to serve it today. She never got to do it. God rest her soul.
Hobbs said he couldn't find you. Not anywhere.
Well, that is a lie. I have been in that kitchen the last 2 hours. Never left it once. He's lying, he is. Trying to get me into trouble.
Oh, come now, Murchison. Why would Hobbs want to get you into trouble?
Because I know too much about him. That's why. And he's afraid I might tell what I know. He wants to see me dismissed.
The woman is mad. Stark mad.
Am I? We have been paid no salary in this house for 6 months. Now, not that I'm complaining, miss, I'm not. But ask him how he can afford to buy the finest of vintage wines to swill down his gullet. Ask him who pays for the costly cigars he smokes. And ask him where he gets the money for the expensive suits, shoes, whatever he wears when he goes to London on his days off. Ask him.
Is it true, Hobbs?
Why, yes, miss. I'll not deny that I enjoy good wine and a fine cigar. How do I pay for them? Why, miss, your father paid me well in the many years I served him. I was able to save considerable. And that, miss, is all there is to it. Though Mrs. Murchison would like you to think otherwise.
Think what? Well, Mrs. Murchison?
Nothing, miss. I've said too much already. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a roast cooking.
1 minute.
Sir?
The inside of your right arm. I just noticed when you turned. It's smeared with what looks like blood.
Blood?
Well, look at it.
Oh, yes.
Is it blood, Mrs. Murchison?
I guess it is. Yes,
Preparing the roast, cutting it, I must have got a smear of blood on me.
Is that how you got it, Mrs. Murchison?
What do you mean, Dr. Westmore?
Nothing. Nothing, Mrs. Murchison.
May I go, miss?
Yes. And you too, Hobbs.
Oh, yes, miss.
Well, she could have got that blood on her from cutting a roast of beef.
Or from cutting something else. My suspicions of Mrs. Murchison were sharply aroused. I had myself stated to Westmore that whoever was responsible for these ghoulish happenings must be mad. Stark mad. I was speculating on all this in the drawing room after dinner, paying little attention to something Margaret and Westmore were discussing, when, to the surprise of us all, Lord Burleigh was announced for the second time that day.
His lordship, miss.
Good evening, Miss Trezilian, Mr. Somerset, and you, Dr. Westmore.
Good evening.
Lord Burleigh.
Sir?
I thought our business had ended this afternoon.
Ah, no, my dear. Business, sound business, that is, never takes no for an answer. Since I could not reason with you, I decided to ride over and, if possible, reason with your husband-to-be. To answer your look, Doctor, yes, I heard you were here.
Is there anything you don't know, Lord Burleigh?
Very little, very little. As your betrothed may have mentioned to you, I'm interested in buying Moorland Manor.
She didn't mention it, no.
Ah, yes. Well, I am prepared to make you, all things considered, a quite decent offer, Doctor, once you come into possession through marriage, of course. Would you be interested?
I would, indeed. Why do you want moorland, my lord?
Well, it adjoins my own estate. The 780 acres of moorland would be a welcome addition.
I should think so, yes. What are you prepared to offer?
£1 per acre, 780 pounds.
That isn't an offer, Lord Burleigh. It's an insult.
Oh, not at all, not at all. If you look at it in the right light, Doctor, all things considered, as I said, it's really something of a compliment.
As attorney for the estate, I can assure you it's worth a very great deal more than £780.
Oh, can you, Mr. Somerset? Can you indeed? In your position, you must also be aware that the estate is impoverished.
Yes, but...
That taxes are now a year in arrears.
Yes, still...
I know. You entertain the hope, the forlorn hope, Mr. Somerset, that through proper management, through improved land production, you might salvage the estate.
I would hope that Dr. Westmore would, when he becomes owner.
Well, hasn't he told you he means to sell more land within a month, perhaps less? You'll be willing to settle for shillings.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, quite simply, my dear, that there will be no one here to run the place for you. No servants, no farmers, no stable help, no one.
Why not?
Because the strange things taking place here, I refer to the occurrences in the family vault, are already known in the village, and the people are frightened. Within a few days, they will shun Moorland Manor as if it contained bubonic plague.
This is impossible. Well informed as you may be on what goes on in Burleigh, you couldn't be this informed. Unless...
Yes?
Nothing.
No, I insist. Unless what, my dear?
I said nothing.
But your silence signifies everything. If you're implying that I have a more than ordinary knowledge of what is going on here, that I am in some way involved, then out with it.
That is indeed what I do surmise.
Well, then let me assure you that you're wrong. I have my sources of information, yes. I have my informants, indeed a network of them. But I am not, I repeat, not a body snatcher.
Body snatcher?
Oh, good Lord, man, what do you think is behind all this?
Body snatching.
Oh, heaven help us, what naivete. Do you think someone is simply playing games, having some sort of ghoulish fun? You, Miss Trezilian, and you, Mr. Somerset, yes, I can understand it with you too. But Westmore, you? Do you mean to say you haven't suggested this possibility, this probability, to these two young people?
Should I have?
Ah, but you know better than anyone the need of bodies for dissection purposes, for the training of medical students. Medical schools will pay £10 for a fresh body, and 15, as you damn well know, sir, for a fresh head.
Really? You're far more knowledgeable than I am, sir.
Oh, you know nothing of it, eh? You, whose case is on trial this very moment before the College of Surgeons for just such practices, you know nothing?
What is he on trial for? I thought it was body snatching alone.
Oh, that, of course. But in the eyes of the authorities, something far more vile. Dr. Westmore is a grave robber.
What?
Yes, my dear. He not only snatches corpses, but robs them as well.
Is this true?
I own to nothing.
You needn't. Your face says all.
Blast you, Lord Burleigh, for what you've done to me these past minutes.
I to you? Have you not done it to yourself, sir?
Yes, heaven above help me, yes. But I had hopes, stupidly had hopes, that I might repair the damage I've done others and myself. I dared to hope that with the monies I would receive from the sale of Moorland, I might regain some reputation, some respect, some personal dignity.
I ask your pardon. I had not known you had in you even a spark of decency.
Only a spark. Nevertheless, a spark, which I might have fanned into flame.
And you may still. What I have said has been said within the confines of this house.
No, Lord Burleigh, it has been said within the confines of this woman's heart, and will echo there till the day she dies.
Well, I am sorry. But now, as to my offer to buy Moorland Manor...
Another time. We'll discuss it another time, if at all.
Now, then I had best take my leave.
That would be best. And Lord Burleigh...
My dear?
Don't come back.
The revelation of another side to Dr. Westmore's character, a good side, came as a surprise to both myself and Margaret. Unhappily, this better side of Dr. Westmore, as Margaret and I discovered in a long discussion with him following Burleigh's departure, by no means influenced him in releasing Margaret from her obligation to marry him. When finally he had retired for the night, Margaret and I sat hopelessly talking of the future.
Edward, I love you so. And the thought of marrying Dr. Westmore, I shudder at it.
I too, my darling. There must be something.
What? What solution have you thought of?
One that only God could arrange, I'm afraid. Westmore's death.
Oh, Edward.
Frankly, there have been times when I've been nearly driven to arrange it myself.
You mustn't say such things, Edward. Not even think them. 2 in the morning. No wonder we're having such wild thoughts. We're tired. I'll say good night to you, my dearest. Edward!
What in heaven's name?
Mrs. Murchison!
But where is she? Where are those screams? Oh, the crypt.
The crypt?
Sounds that way. Stay here.
No, I'm coming with you.
Here's the crypt. Don't come in, Margaret.
Nonsense, Edward.
Mr. Hammond.
What is it, Mrs. Murchison? What are you doing here in the crypt? And what's happened to make you lose control?
There. It's Sir Simon's corpse. Go and look. See for yourself.
Good Lord.
Edward, what?
No, don't look, Margaret.
I must. Oh, my God.
When I came to that part of Edward Somerset's journal, I could hardly wait to turn the page, to find out what new horror had taken place in the crypt. And a horror it was. A shocking horror, as you'll discover when you turn the page, so to speak, shortly, after I return with Act 3. Shall we turn that page of Edward Somerset's journal? Personally, I could scarcely wait to do so. But I am used to horrors, can sort of take them in my stride. While you, on the other... You insist? Very well, then. We turn the page.
Margaret, for all her delicate beauty is a strong woman, a woman of courage. But as she looked into her father's coffin, and the words,
"Oh, my God,"
escaped her lips, I feared she was about to faint. But she somehow managed to retain control. When I was sure she wasn't about to collapse, I turned my attention to Mrs. Murchison and said, "Pull yourself together, Mrs. Murchison."
I'll try.
And answer me. What are you doing here in the crypt? And at this hour of the morning? Well, answer me.
I wanted to clear myself.
Clear yourself?
To prove my innocence. Last night, when you saw the blood smear on my arm, the way you looked at me, all of you, the way you talked, I could see you suspected me of doing these foul things. But what brought you here? What could you expect to prove here? I don't know. I only know I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, all sorts of thoughts going through my head, all sorts of needs to prove to you that your suspicions of me were unfounded. I came down here in desperation, I suppose, thinking I might find something, some clue, some bit of evidence that would give the lie to Hobbs. Instead, I found that.
What do you mean, give the lie to Hobbs?
Sir, I was in the kitchen all the time he claims he was looking for me. The time when poor Katie was murdered. Oh, and so that blood on my arm was from cutting the roast beef, from nothing else.
So you say.
You don't believe me still.
Why should I? We find you here in the crypt under very curious circumstances, and you expect us to believe your not very convincing story?
It's the truth. I swear to you, sir, and you, miss, it's true.
That's to be seen. The question now is, what's to be done?
Edward, the police must be notified as soon as possible.
Yes. Dr. Westmore was going to take a message to London tomorrow morning. Well, someone else will have to do it now.
Edward?
Yes?
Are we dealing with a madman?
I'd say what's in that coffin answers your question, Margaret. If we had found Dr. Westmore's head, just the head, I might still have some doubts, but not anymore. Not after finding Westmore's head with the lips cut off.
Terrible. Terrible what happened to Dr. Westmore.
Yes.
Will you be long in London, sir?
Only overnight. I'll return in the morning with, I hope, some member of the police force who can get to the bottom of what's going on at Moorland.
Strange. First Sir Simon's body taken, but his head left in the coffin. Then his head gone and Katie's... Oh, the poor girl. Her head put in its place. And now Dr. Westmore's head in place of Katie's and the lips cut off. It was horrible.
Very.
Have you any idea, sir, as to what's behind this?
I have my suspicions, Hobbs. But that's all they are. Suspicions.
Well, now, you'll be sure to return on the morning coach, and so I'll be there to meet you.
Yes.
Depend on me. And there now, you see, the village just below us in the valley. I told you we'd be in plenty of time.
Hardly touched your dinner, miss.
I'm not hungry, Mrs. Murchison.
Oh, small wonder. All that's happened here. And some of the village farmhands telling you today that they'd not be coming back to Moorland to work the fields. I'll see who it is, miss. Lord Burleigh.
Is your mistress at home, Mrs. Murchison?
I'll see, my lord.
No need. I'm sure she is.
I thought I had informed you, Lord Burleigh, that your presence here is no longer desired.
You may change your mind about that.
If you've come to see me about...
I've come to see the crypt, if I may have your permission.
Whatever for?
I learned today that a good number of your farmhands have left you because of the doings here. Well, for my benefit, once I own moorland, I think it best to clear up the mystery of the crypt as quickly as may be.
You think you can?
I know I can. Because, you see, I know on good authority, the reason behind what's been going on.
Is it body snatching?
Yes. So, in any case, I am informed. But I wish to see for myself before taking action. I have your permission?
Very well.
Now, come along, then. Now, first I want to look in the coffin. Poor Westmore. Lips mutilated as I was informed.
Whatever it is you wish to see or do, will you do it quickly?
To be absolutely sure, I'll open the top coffin on this stack.
No, you can't do that. It's sacrilege. That's the coffin of my mother.
I'm afraid it was the coffin of your mother, my dear. In truth, I'm afraid many of these coffins no longer contain their original occupants. They are now used as storage boxes for much fresher corpses. Now, with your permission, then. Yeah, so see for yourself, Margaret.
Please, I'd rather not.
Oh, come, you must. This once. I want you to know I speak the truth. Look.
But why? If bodies are in such demand, why store them away? Why not sell them at once?
Oh, my dear, you are as devoid of business sense as your father. In business, there is an inexorable law known as the law of supply and demand. When supply exceeds demand, prices fall, and vice versa. There is more demand for corpses at some times than at others, more demand for heads at certain times. At the moment, medical schools are in need of heads. Why? I haven't the vaguest idea. My informant didn't know.
I do.
What?
Hobbs, what are you doing here?
No need to answer that, Hobbs. That butcher knife in your hand is answer enough.
Answer enough for you? Damn your rotten throat!
No, you're stabbing him to death!
May he rot in hell. Eyes and ears everywhere. Nothing hidden from him. Oh, knew everything. Knew all about what was going on down here. I even knew, I'll be bound, that I am the body snatcher. You didn't know. You didn't even suspect. Mr. Somerset did. Lord Burleigh did. Dr. Westmore, oh, yes, he more than suspected. He knew, because he was the one who bought what I had to sell.
Westmore?
He started me, but I ended him. I had to.
Why? Why did you have to?
He was soon to go on trial before the College of Surgeons. They have enough evidence to convict him, to break him down, and he will have told everything, including where he got the bodies, the heads, from me. From me. That's why I had to cut off his lips, so he'd never tell. Never.
You're mad.
Yes, that may be.
The bodies, the heads. How did you transport them? The nearest medical schools are in London.
I have a carriage, more a wagon in the village. And the night before, I would go to London. On my days off, I would take what I had to sell into the village and stack them away in the wagon. You thought I went to London by coach? No, I never did. I always went in my wagon, taking my produce to market, to Dr. Westmore.
And I never suspected. I never knew.
Well, you do now.
No, don't kill me, Hobbs. Please, don't kill me.
I must. And cut off your lips so you can't ever...
No, please.
I'll be quick. It won't hurt.
No.
Oh, yes. I've become very... Mr. Summers. You came back.
I never went. But Hobbs will never know that now.
Oh, Edward. Oh, darling, he was the body snatcher, and he...
I know, dearest. I heard everything he said. But I knew the whole story before I came back from the village.
You didn't go to London?
I never intended to. The more I thought about it, the more it seemed that if Lord Burleigh could buy information, and he couldn't have got it any other way, then maybe if I spread the word in the village that I was willing to pay and pay handsomely, well, in any case, I did. And it worked.
You learned about Hobbs?
Everything.
Thank God you arrived in time.
I thank him not only for that, but for the future that lies ahead for us. There are two important tasks I shall devote the rest of my life to. One is restoring Moorland Manor to what it once was.
And the other?
Making you the happiest woman on earth.
And so ended, happily, the strange and horrifying events at Moorland Manor. Edward Somerset continued his journal for many years, and I'm glad to be able to tell you that he did restore Moorland Manor to its former splendor. And he must have made Margaret at least one of the happiest women on earth. If 9 children mean anything. I'll be back shortly. Our story took place in 1874. There are many who say the world was a better place to live in then. Maybe it was. I don't know. All of us do face many problems, many frustrations, many fears these days. But one fear we don't have now that just about everyone had then is the fear of being buried alive. At least I don't think we have. Our cast included Suzanne Grossman, Gordon Gould, Anne Pitoniak, Ian Martin, Kurt Benson, and George Lowther. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown.
Now, a preview of our next tale.
Wait a moment while I light a candle. All right, Harry. There.
I can't see a thing. Too dark. Too many shadows.
It's a dark diary, Harry. And it has many shadows. Here. Take this candle. Now, go forward.
Good Lord.
I thought you'd be shocked, Harry.
Shocked? I'm shattered. Where did you get this hideous painting?
Basil Hallward.
Impossible. Basil never painted anything as unholy, ungodly as this.
Well, really, he didn't. I did.
You?
And you.
Dorian, I'm tiring quickly of your veiled answers. What is this thing?
It is a portrait done by Basil Hallward. It is the portrait of Dorian Gray.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser, and Buick Motor Division. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams. Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Welcome to the world of... No, not your imagination this time, but that of a man, a writer, who had more than enough for both of us. This time, then, I bid you relax, let your imagination take a holiday, as I bring you not only a story of horror, but of wit and brilliance. Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray.
But the portrait of you, Dorian, The portrait I painted of you. It is hideous. Dorian, what does this mean?
It means that the frightful wish I made in your studio 18 months ago was granted.
Impossible. The room is damp. Mildew has got into the canvas. The paints I used had some mineral poison in them. I tell you, the thing is impossible. This is the face of a monster.
Yes, Hallward. The face of a monster. The face of my soul.
Our mystery drama, The Picture of Dorian Gray, was especially adapted from the Oscar Wilde classic for the Mystery Theater by George Lowther and stars Nick Pryor. It is sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser, and Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One. Nothing is new under the sun. Women's lib is as old as the Greeks. And the vaunted liberality of our times, do your own thing. Live today, pay tomorrow. Whatever is pleasurable is right, was more than anticipated by a certain Victorian named Oscar Wilde, who in 1891 wrote The Picture of Dorian Gray. Come with me now to the London studio of the celebrated portrait painter Basil Hallward. A handsome young man, Dorian Gray, is having his portrait painted as he chats with Lord Henry Wotton, a rather dissolute, depraved man about town.
Please don't move about so much, Dorian. And don't pay any attention to what Lord Henry says. He has a very bad influence on people.
Have you, Lord Henry? A bad influence on people?
There is no such thing as a good influence, Mr. Gray. All influence is immoral.
Oh, why?
Because to influence a person is to give him one's own soul. He does not think his own thoughts or burn with his natural passions.
And so when one person influences another, if you were to influence me, for example,
your individuality would be to that degree destroyed.
Just turn your head a little more to the right, Dorian.
Well, I doubt if you could influence me very much, Sir Henry. I'm told you're a very wicked man.
Wicked? I only believe in living my life fully, completely, in giving expression to every thought, reality, to every dream. Most men believe in virtue. I believe in sin.
In sin?
Dorian, don't move, please.
But of course, the only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it.
A provocative thought, Lord Henry.
The truth, nothing more. You, Mr. Gray, you yourself, a fresh youth of 20 summers, you have already had passions that made you afraid, thoughts that filled you with terror, daydreams and sleeping dreams whose mere memory might bring a flush of shame to your cheeks.
Perhaps.
Take my advice. Live while you're young. Youth is the one thing worth having.
Oh, I don't feel that way, Lord Henry.
Because you are young. Have your youth. But someday when you're old and wrinkled and ugly, when thought has seared your forehead with its lines, and passion branded your lips with its hideous fires, then you will feel it. You will feel it terribly.
You talk too much, Harry, and frankly, I don't much care for these thoughts you're putting into Dorian's head. Well, you'll not talk any longer. The portrait is finished. Come and look at it. Oh. Well, Dorian, what is it? Why did you draw back from your portrait? Don't you like it?
I like it too much. Too much.
Well, what do you mean?
You have painted me as I am, but as Lord Henry just said, someday I shall be old, wrinkled, ugly.
Oh, come, Mr. Gray, don't take me too seriously. Many, many years will pass before you are old.
But why should it be that way? Why should this portrait keep what I must lose? If it were only the other way. If the picture could change, and I could always be what I am now. I'd sell my soul to the devil if that could be true. Oh, the portrait! Look out! The portrait's fallen to the floor. God in heaven, Hallward, Lord Henry, You don't think the devil heard me, do you?
Nothing as supernatural as all that, Dorian. I've been meaning to fix a cracked leg in that easel for weeks, and it finally broke, that's all.
Is the portrait damaged?
No, not in the least.
Are you, Mr. Gray?
I? Damaged?
Did you mean what you said about selling your soul to the devil?
I'm not sure. But you never know. If the portrait could grow old instead of me, I think I might. I really think I might.
Beg pardon, Mr. Gray.
Yes, Parker, what is it?
Miss Vane calling, sir.
At this hour of the morning, it's not yet 10 o'clock. Well, show her in, Parker.
Thank you, Parker, but I'm already in.
Yes, miss.
Sybil, my darling, this is indeed a surprise.
An unpleasant one, Dorian.
Oh, my dear, we're engaged to be married. How could seeing you be unpleasant?
Well, since you haven't seen me in over a week and have broken 2 engagements with me, I thought it might be.
Oh, no, not at all. It's just that I've been terribly busy. Come now. Don't frown at me like that. Give me a kiss to show you forgive me.
Oh, Dorian, you smell of brandy.
I had a drink, yes.
So early in the day?
Well, I wasn't feeling well. I thought it might make me feel better.
Dorian, what's happened?
Happened?
You've changed. You're not the same man I fell in love with, consented to marry. You haven't been the same since that portrait of you over the fireplace came into this house.
Oh, that's a silly thing to say. You're certainly not blaming my portrait for what I do.
No, I simply date the change in you from the day it was finished.
But there is no change in me. You only imagine...
Did I imagine you're not calling on me in a week? Did I imagine you're ignoring my messages? And the stories that I'm hearing about you? Do I imagine them?
What stories?
Stories concerning you and Lord Henry Wotton. Stories so coarse, so vile that I dare not repeat them.
He is anything but wicked, Sybil. He lives differently from most others, that's all. He believes in doing what you want to do, in living freely, without constraint.
Do you believe in that, too?
I don't quite know.
Dorian, darling, it's one thing to be free, another to be depraved.
You think me depraved?
I think that you're easily led, and that Lord Henry is leading you into a life you'll have reason to regret. Oh, Dorian, don't look at me as if you hated me. I'm only saying these things to you because I love you. I love you deeply, devotedly, passionately. You're so precious to me. So precious, I think I'd die if anything happened to you.
Oh, forgive me, Sybil. You are just as precious to me, as precious as life itself.
Oh, Dorian, my dear.
Oh, sweetheart. Are you free this evening? Can you dine with me?
Of course.
Then I'll call for you at 8 sharp.
Oh, wonderful. I'll spend the entire day looking forward... What? Well, that's odd.
What?
Your portrait.
Odd? What's odd about it?
Well, this is only the second time I've seen it, but it seemed to me that the first time I saw it, it seemed that it was a superb likeness of you.
Oh, it is. Basil Hallward is one of the most brilliant portrait painters in all of Europe.
Yes, there's no doubt of that, but there's something a little wrong with the mouth.
Darling, there's always something a little wrong with the mouth.
No, be serious. Your mouth is gentle and sensitive, almost tender. And the mouth of the portrait, well, don't you see it? It has almost a cruel look about it.
Nonsense. It must be the light.
No, I think it's more than that.
No, you imagine things. Tonight at 8.
Dorian! Oh, Dorian! I knew that was you turning into Bond Street.
Oh, hello, Basil.
How are you? Let me look at you. Oh, by heaven, you're the handsomest young hellion in all of London.
Hellion?
There's a good deal of talk going on round about your escapades, Dorian. Yours and Lord Henry.
I think it's called sowing one's wild oats, Basil, nothing more.
I'm not sure. You certainly don't look as if you've been leading a dissipated life. Clear eyes, healthy skin. Ah, you delight my painter's eye, Dorian. But of course, that's why I wanted to do your portrait in the first place. And why I want your permission to exhibit it.
Exhibit it?
Yes.
I'm afraid I can't.
What? You can't?
Let's say I prefer not to.
Oh, I see. Well, it's yours, of course, and you've every right to do with it as you wish.
And I don't wish it to be exhibited. No hard feelings, I hope.
Why, no, of course not. Dorian, will you be home later in the day?
Yes, why?
Well, it needs to be varnished, the portrait. It's more than a month now since I finished it. Time to give it a protective coating. Shall we say 4 o'clock? Well, shall we?
I'm afraid you forced me to tell you something I'd rather not reveal to you, Basil.
Oh?
There isn't any portrait. I destroyed it.
What? Oh, you don't mean that.
I do indeed.
You destroyed one of my finest... Why, in heaven's name, man, why?
I simply didn't care for it, that's all.
Well, you liked it well enough the first time you saw it.
Very true, but the more I looked at it, the more I felt it wasn't me.
Well, I see that the stories about you are true. I was afraid they might be once I heard you'd become close friends with Harry Wotton.
Your friend, too, Basil.
Yes, but I'm older than you by 20 years, Dorian, and not easily led. Or rather misled.
I am not being misled. I'm being taught, instructed, if you will, in what real pleasures life can hold if one will only let himself go.
Remove it, sir?
You heard me, Parker. I want the portrait taken down from over the fireplace and carted off to the attic.
Whatever you say, sir, of course. But might I venture to suggest that if you had it placed in a different light...
What has a different light to do about it?
The light changes a good deal during the day, and the portrait seems to change with it.
You've noticed the change, then?
Oh, yes, sir. The changes that take place in the differing light altogether are fascinating, sir.
Much as I shall be sorry to deprive you of your entertainment, Parker, have it taken to the attic.
I'll do it first thing in the morning, sir.
No, damn it! You'll do it now!
It would seem that Dorian Gray's wish is coming true. That the portrait is beginning to show the ravages of his dissipations, not he. But if that is so, and certainly it seems to be, what price will he be forced to pay before the end is reached? Who sells his soul to the devil deals with a harsh bargainer. I'll be back shortly with Act 2. Fearing the loss of youth, even though only 20 years old, young Dorian Gray states that he would be willing to sell his soul to the devil if he could remain young always, while Basil Hallward's portrait of him grows old. Seemingly the devil has taken him at his word, for as Dorian Gray becomes more depraved and dissolute, the portrait shows the increasing ravages of the life he leads, while he remains the same handsome youth who sat for the picture some months ago. But his fiancée, Sybil Vane, is not fooled.
I beg you, as you love me, Dorian, give up this sordid life, this life of gutter pleasures.
How do you know what kind of life I lead, Sybil? You don't live it with me.
Reports of your disgusting escapades, yours and Lord Henry's, are known in every drawing room in London. If you love me, you'll give them up.
But you see, that's the point. I don't love you.
Don't say that, Dorian. Even if you mean it only to wound me, to strike back, don't say it.
It's of no consequence to me whether I wound you or not.
You're not yourself.
Not myself. My dear, I am more myself than I've ever been in all my life before. In any case, I'm sufficiently myself to tell you now what, for so-called reasons of decency, I have not told you before. I no longer love you. In fact, Sybil, I'm through with you.
Dorian, you loved me.
No longer.
You gave me your heart, your very soul.
My heart, I take back. As for my soul, it belongs to another, I'm afraid.
I can't believe this. You look unchanged. You look as you've always looked. Gentle, tender, compassionate, and kind. But you are not. You're cruel and vicious and ruthlessly selfish. You've become an animal.
Be grateful, then, that I'm releasing you from any obligation we may have had. And please, don't be tiresome. Just go now, won't you?
I love you.
Whom did you say, Parker?
Mr. Basil Hallward, sir.
That's who I thought you said. Well, I'm already late for the opera. Tell him I'm not at home.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Hallward, but Mr. Gray is not... Mr. Hallward, please, you can't go in there.
Hallward, how dare you?
I must see you.
I thought you wished never to see me again.
I am not here from choice, Dorian. What did you do to Sybil Vane?
I? Nothing. Whatever has been done to Sybil Vane, she did to herself.
What do you mean by that nonsense?
Simply that I told her I no longer love her and want none of her.
Sybil is dead, Dorian. By her own hand.
Pity. And now, if you'll excuse me.
You aren't going to the opera.
Why, yes.
You have just heard of the death of the woman you loved. The woman who took her own life for love of you. And you can go to the opera?
Death, my dear Hallward, is a most unpleasant subject. And I live only for pleasure. Good night.
Coming. Why, Mr. Dorian, sir, did you forget your key?
Damn it, man. Would I be standing out here in the cold, banging away at the door if I hadn't? Come in, Harry.
Sir Henry, let me take your hat and cloak, sir.
You may go to bed, Parker.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Well, and where shall we go after a brandy or two, Harry?
I shall go home, I think.
But the evening's young.
I am not.
A brandy or two will revive you, and then we'll be off to where? I'm in the mood for a pipe, myself.
No opium for me tonight, Dorian.
Oh, come along now. We'll go to that little dive down in Wapping by the docks.
No, not tonight.
But you can't ask me to go alone.
I'm not asking you to go at all.
Harry, what's come over you?
Age, my dear fellow. I get tired these days. I am growing old, Dorian. A life of pleasure does exact payment. Though I must say, you look as if you keep up with your payments easily.
I have no complaints.
How do you do it? In the last 6 months, since we first met in Hallward's studio, we have indulged ourselves in every form of vice, every variety of sin, giving full vent to our passions, and yet, well, look at me. I have aged 20 years in these 6 months keeping up with you. But you're as fresh and healthy and young as ever you were. How do you do it?
Shall I show you my secret?
Show me.
I keep a diary. A rather remarkable diary, Harry. In it is recorded every single action of mine since that fatal day.
Fatal day?
The day we met.
I thought you were grateful for our meeting. Why do you say fatal day?
Come and read my diary, and you'll see. Bring your brandy.
All these stairs, Dorian. Where are you taking me?
The attic.
You keep your diary in the attic?
You'll see. Here we are. Wait a moment while I light a candle. All right, Harry. There. In that corner.
I can't see a thing. Too dark. Too many shadows.
It's a dark diary, Harry. And it has many shadows. Here. Take this candle. Now, go forward.
Good Lord.
I thought you'd be shocked, Harry.
Shocked? I'm shattered. Where did you get this hideous painting?
Basil Hallward.
Impossible. Basil never painted anything as unholy, ungodly as this.
Well, really, he didn't. I did.
You?
And you.
Dorian, I'm tiring quickly of your veiled answers. What is this thing?
It is a portrait done by Basil Hallward. It is the portrait of Dorian Gray.
Of you? This is the portrait he finished that day?
It was. It no longer is.
But I don't understand that. What has happened here?
What indeed?
Dorian, tell me, what?
I made a wish in Hallward's studio, you remember?
No.
I said I would willingly sell my soul to the devil if I could remain forever youthful, no matter what excesses of physical pleasure I indulged in, and only this portrait aged.
Yes, now I remember, yes.
The devil heard and remembered, even though you did not.
It's incredible.
So had been the vile delights you revealed to me, Harry. The gutter pleasures, as Sybil termed them.
Sybil Vane, your fiancée?
Yes. She's dead, Harry.
Oh, no.
Ah, yes. And by her own hands.
Suicide? Why?
Why?
She was such a lovely thing, fresh as a rose, innocent as a new fallen snowflake. You break my heart to tell me this. Why would she have done such a thing?
Well, she didn't. I did.
You?
And again, you.
Damn, enough of this, I say. What in hell's name are you getting at?
I think the truth.
What truth?
That you were wrong. Tragically wrong. You said that day in Basil's studio, the body sins once and has done with its sin, for action is a mode of purification. Oh, Harry, how wrong you were.
Not wrong. Beaten, whipped, vanquished, conquered by my own vices.
And you led me into a life of sin?
Led? Who led? You wanted it. I tell you truly that I have never been so appalled by such viciousness as I found in you.
You said, that day you said, the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it.
But I might have added that the only way to overcome temptation is to fight it. What are you holding there in your hand? I can't see in the candlelight. What?
A knife.
What are you going to do with it?
Kill you.
Why?
You deserve to die. Or put another way, you don't deserve to live.
You will never learn, will you? Life isn't something you deserve. It's a burden you must carry.
Then be grateful to me, Harry. I'm about to relieve you of yours. No! A good deed. Well done. Do you not agree, portrait? Speak to me, my likeness. My soul. Have I not done well to rid the world of this creature? Speak. I tell you, speak. Oh, Lord. What's this? The hands. The hands of the portrait. Bloodied. One with the blood of Harry. But the other? Ah, yes. Sybil. Poor, dear, innocent Sybil. Oh, Lord! I fall on my knees and beg you. Forgive me. Forgive me. I knew not what I did. You knew. Die! And you will pay. Pay. How much more? How much more?
How much more, indeed. Why is it that the pleasure of minutes must be paid for in hours? As you sow, so shall you reap? Is that it? Appears that way. Well, Dorian Gray sowed much seed, and his reaping of the harvest was not yet over, as we'll hear when I return shortly with Act 3. The mills of the gods grind slowly, but they grind exceeding fine, as they did and were yet to do for Dorian Gray. See him as he sits now, near 3 in the morning, in the library of his London house, a youth uncommonly handsome, not a line in his attractive face, the personification of young innocence. Yet in the attic above stands the portrait of not him, but his soul, a soul made hideous by unmentionable sins.
Oh, Basil, I'm grateful to you for coming. I cannot tell you how grateful.
You should be. Candidly, I don't know why I came, but the message you sent with Parker, well, I'd be inhuman not to answer such a plea, even from the likes of you.
Sit down. Let me give you a brandy.
No. Now tell me what you want of me and be quick about it.
Oh, I need your help. I am desperate.
So I gathered from your message.
Will you help me?
I should not be here at 3 in the morning otherwise. Yes, I'll help you if I can, though you don't deserve it. I'll do it for the friendship we once had.
Well, I went to the opera tonight with Sir Henry.
You forget I brought you the news of Sybil Vane's death.
Oh, yes, and you were scandalized, justifiably so, that I should still attend the opera. On our return here, Harry and I quarreled. And Basil, I killed him.
Dorian.
I stabbed him to death. At this moment, his body lies upstairs in the attic.
The attic?
It was there. I killed him in a sudden fit of rage.
What in the world were you doing in the attic?
I had taken him there to show him my portrait.
What portrait?
The one you did of me.
The one I... But, Dorian, you told me you destroyed it.
I lied. I didn't want you to exhibit it. You couldn't have in any case, but I didn't even want you to see it.
Why in heaven's name not?
You will see when we go up.
You want me to go up there?
Basil, you must get rid of the body for me.
What? Are you mad? It would involve me in a murder.
A murder for which you bear as much responsibility as I.
Responsibility? I bear as much as...
You painted the portrait. You introduced me to Sir Henry. Had it not been for either, I should not be in this frightful situation.
Nonsense. You can't blame me for what you
yourself... Help me. I beg you.
I tell you no. Get someone else, anyone, or do it yourself.
I can't. I dare not touch the body. I dare not even go near it. It revolts me.
If I were to consent to this, how am I to get rid of the body?
You came in your carriage, did you not?
Yes.
All right. You have only to carry the body down from the attic, put it in your carriage, drive to the river, and dump it in.
What if I am seen?
Well, you must take care not to be. Basil, please, for the friendship you once bore me, for the responsibility you do bear in all this, whether you agree or not, please.
Well, I can at least go up with you and see what may be done.
Thank you, Basil, thank you. I'll take the candelabra. Follow me. Take care, Basil. Don't stumble. There.
Whatever Harry may have been, he was my friend. But I cannot help but say, the world is well rid of him.
As it will be of me.
I'll not deny it. No. Where is the portrait?
Oh, you don't want to see that.
Dorian, if you wish me to help you get rid of Harry's body, then you'll have to let me see the portrait. It's that or nothing.
Very well. It's there, in the corner. Here, take the candelabra.
Oh, thank you.
You see?
Oh, but this is horrible. It's hideous. I never painted this.
No, I did.
No, it can't be. The room is damp. Mildew has got into the canvas. That would account for the green splotches on the cheeks. The paints I used had some mineral poison in them. Hence the cancerous growths on the nose, the forehead. Oh, heaven help me. This is the face of a monster.
Yes, Basil. The face of a monster. The face of my soul.
If this is what you are, truly are.
It is. I am.
Then I'll have nothing to do with you. Oh, you're not human. You're a devil. A fiend. Oh, let me out of here.
Wait. You said you'd help.
I must get out of here. I must leave this hellhole you call a home.
Basil. No, come back. Help me, Basil. You must help me. Help me. Someone help me. Oh, help me.
Yes, come. What now, Parker?
You have visitors, sir.
Who?
Miss Catherine Wilson from British Charities.
Oh, yes. Yes, show her in. Parker?
Sir?
You conveyed my order to the other servants?
About the attic, oh, yes. No one will enter the attic, sir, without your permission.
Not even you?
Not even I, sir.
Show Miss Wilson in.
You come this way, Miss Wilson. Miss Catherine Wilson.
Good of you to come, Miss Wilson. Won't you sit down?
Thank you, Mr. Gray. May I say it's good of you to wish to contribute so handsome a sum to our charity.
Yes, tell me about your charity. How will the money I give you be spent?
Oh, in many ways. To help poor children, orphans, widows in need of assistance, young people...
Young people?
Well, yes. Young men, young women, many of whom need help in all sorts of ways. Why do you look at me like that?
What did you say your name is?
Catherine Wilson. Why do you ask?
You look very much like a young woman I was engaged to marry once. It's strange. You didn't look like her when you came in, but now you seem to be changing before my very eyes.
No, Mr. Gray. I am me.
No, you're not. You're Sybil Vane.
Mr. Gray.
You're Sybil. Only you can't be because you're dead. Dead.
You are dead, aren't you?
Please, Mr. Gray, take your hands off me. What's come over you, sir?
You're not dead. You are here. It is you. Oh, Sybil. Sybil, my darling.
Mr. Gray,
no,
please.
Don't pull away. Let me hold you, embrace you, love you as I once. Oh, good Lord. Oh, what am I doing? You're not Sybil Vane.
Mr. Gray, I'm afraid you're ill, not yourself. I shall come back some other day.
No.
Good day, Mr. Gray.
Oh, what happened to me? What is happening to me?
Sir, are you all right? The young lady said she thought you were ill.
I confess I don't feel altogether well.
Some brandy, sir?
Yes. Please, Harry.
Beg pardon, sir.
What?
I think you called me Hetty.
Oh, how could I possibly have called you Harry? Harry's dead.
Sir Henry dead, sir?
What? What?
Sir, you are ill. No. Don't try to get up, sir. Sit right there. I'll fetch the brandy.
Yes, do that.
You'll forgive my saying so, sir, but to judge from Sir Henry's high spirits when you returned from the opera last night, he has many years yet to live.
In hell?
Sir, you were saying the strangest things. Here, drink this.
Oh, thank you, Harry.
Sir, it's Parker, your manservant.
The best servant a man ever had. A devoted man, more friend than servant. Better friend than any of them. Better friend than you are, Harry. You swine!
Sir!
Get out, Harry! Damn you! Get out!
Mr. Dorian, sir!
What, Parker?
Sir, I'm going to fetch the doctor.
Doctor? No doctor can help me, Parker.
Permit me to differ, sir. I shall fetch him at once.
Who's there?
Only Parker, sir. It's 11 o'clock. I thought I'd just look in on you before retiring. How do you feel, sir?
Not well. I can't sleep.
The powders the doctor prescribed, they don't help?
They've made me worse, if anything. Filled my head with all sorts of fearful thoughts, Parker. Nightmarish thoughts of death, decay. What have I done? Oh, what have I done?
There now, Mr. Dorian, don't take on so. Why, for a man like you to have thoughts of death, that's ridiculous, sir. Look at you, so young, so handsome, so full of spirit.
I am old and ugly and decayed.
Sir, if you could see yourself in the glass, but never mind now. Here, let me pull the quilt up around your shoulders, and then you'll sleep.
Oh, one thing more. Who was that at the front door earlier tonight?
Oh, nothing important, sir. It was a message from Mr. Hallward's housekeeper, sir.
Basil's housekeeper? Why would she send a message?
Oh, she thought you'd want to know, since you were one of his closest friends.
Where?
Oh, I'm sorry to tell you he's dead, sir.
How?
He took his own life, sir.
Oh,
sir. Sir, I shouldn't have told you. I'll fetch the doctor.
No.
Yeah, you need help.
Yes. And you can help me, Parker.
Anything, sir, anything.
Help me to the attic.
The attic?
I feel too weak to go alone. Nor do I dare go alone. And there is something I must do. Help me, good friend. Please help me.
Careful. Let me get an arm around you.
The candle. Yeah, the candle. Can you manage?
Easily.
Let us go then.
Here we are, sir. What is it you wish to do?
I shall need a knife.
I'll go down and fetch it.
No need. Shine that candle over there.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dorian, that looks like a body, a dead body.
It is Sir Henry's body.
Sir Henry?
I murdered him last night with a knife. It is in his back. Take it out and bring it to me.
Oh, sir.
You said you would help me.
Yes, and I shall. The knife, sir.
And now, the portrait.
Mr. Hallward's painting of you. The one we brought up here months ago.
It is still there, in the corner, amidst the shadows. I must destroy it.
Oh, no, sir.
Bring the candle.
Sir, I don't know what this is all about. Sir Henry murdered, destroying your portrait, one of the most beautiful paintings that ever... Oh, no.
Yes. Now you see why it must be destroyed. And will be destroyed by me. Now! There! Into hell with you! And there! Burn in the nethermost fires of the pit. Suffer every torture and torment the devil can heap upon you for the purification of your soul.
Mr. Dorian!
The portrait! Look at the portrait!
Changing. Heaven protect us, it's changing before my very eyes. That hideous monster is becoming young and handsome and beautiful. It's you, sir. You, as Mr. Hallward painted you. Yeah, let me hold you up so you can look for... You are becoming...
Yes, withered, scabrous, loathsome. I have become what I really am. The true picture of Dorian Gray.
And so died Dorian Gray, turning physically into the hideous and loathsome thing which was his soul, as the portrait became once again the handsome youth he once had been. As I read the picture of Dorian Gray, I couldn't help but wonder if our modern penchant for doing your own thing might not be leading some of us, at least, to the same end as poor Dorian. I don't know. What do you think? I'll be back shortly. Oscar Wilde poured into the picture of Dorian Gray all his brilliant wit and all his wisdom, too. The wisdom of experience. For Wilde lived life to the hilt and paid for it, as must we all. Our cast included Nick Pryor, Norman Rose, and Roger de Koven. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown.
Now, a preview of our next tale.
Unlatch that belt, paleface, or I'll use it to make your other end red. Better get on your horse. Bye, Mom. I love you. I love you too, Billy boy. And I also could kill your Uncle Ralph for this stupid birthday present. Guns. What place do they have in our life? Or anyone's? Why does the back doorbell always ring when you're at the front? Coming! All right. What's so important? Yes?
Hello, wife. Long time no see.
Who are you? What do you... Oh, no. It could be...
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division and Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams. Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Ferndale is an average small American town surrounded by nice middle-class American homes. It is located in a middle America state and is about as representative of the United States and what its citizens are all about as you can imagine. Nobody in an atmosphere like this has any contact with violence nor walks in any fear. Except, who knows what hides in the private jungle beyond any respectable door.
Pow! Gotcha. Dead center.
All right, Billy. Give me the guns.
Oh, Mom, can't I take him to school?
Sorry, partner.
But I wanted to show Clancy William.
Unlatch that belt, paleface, or I'll use it to make your other end red. Better get on your horse.
Bye, Mom. I love you.
I love you too, Billy boy. And I also could kill your Uncle Ralph for this stupid birthday present. Guns. What place do they have in our life? Or anyone's? Why does the back doorbell always ring when you're at the front? Coming! All right. What's so important? Yes?
Hello, wife. Long time no see.
Who are you? What do you... Oh, no. It could be...
Our mystery drama, You Only Die Once, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Ian Martin and stars Joan Lorring and Joseph Julian. It is sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser, and Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One. Marge Stanley loves her mornings. In fact, she loves her whole life. It suits her. It's just her style. She's naturally a morning person. By 8 a.m., Billy is off for school, and her husband Howard off for the bank. Then she has a long, long morning to set the house to rights, laze a little in the bathtub, freshen and dress crisp and smart as always. It's a routine that never tires and is seldom broken. And certainly never as rudely and shockingly as this day that brings terror, violence, and the threat of death to her loved ones and herself.
Hey, Marge, come on, snap out of it.
What happened to me?
You passed out.
Oh, I remember I opened the back door, and even with the beard, I thought for a moment, but you can't be. It's 8 years ago, and he's dead. He's dead.
You mean Lou Miller?
Yes.
The guy that drowned in the reservoir?
My first husband, who died.
You mean your husband? I didn't die, Marge. I'm still alive.
Oh, no. No, please. It couldn't be. Please, God. Howard is my husband. Howard Stanley is my husband. Whoever you are, please go.
You know who I am, Marge, just as well as I do.
But you drowned.
There was no body, Marge, remember?
You didn't drown. You are Lou.
That's right, baby.
Oh.
I've been fingerprinted enough places to nail that down for sure.
Oh.
So, no welcome home kiss for your loving husband?
You're not. I have a husband.
A meek little Joe who took off for his daily walk to the bank, huh? Mr. Howard Stanley, right?
Yes.
And a son, too. Cute-looking kid. How old is he?
He's 7.
Yeah? Big for his age, huh? And smart, too, I bet.
He's very smart. Just like Howard.
He must be. 7 years old and in the 4th grade.
Never mind, Billy. It's you. What happened? Where have you been?
Now, that's, like they say, a long story. Tell you what, why don't you fix me some eggs and bacon the way you used to, and some good hot steaming drip coffee, like the old days. And while you're at it, you and me can have a good long talk about the future.
What did you come back for, Lou?
I'm your husband.
After walking out on me for 7 years?
I didn't walk out on you, babe. Remember, I was dead.
But you're not. You just deserted me.
Did you get a divorce?
Why should I get a divorce when everybody thought...
So, you see, we're still married.
Lou, what happened? Where have you been?
Remember that summer, Marge?
I'm not likely to forget it.
Them 3 fellas held up that hat stand bank and lit out with $100 grand. Boy, was I glad I was a scuba nut that year. When they dragged the reservoir where they were sure the guys dumped the loot before they caught them, it couldn't turn up a thing. They did post the reward, 10,000 smackers.
Biggest thing ever happened in our part of the country. How could I forget?
Boy, I'm telling you, sugar, I thought them water wrinkles would never wear out of my skin from diving after that bonanza.
We were going to use the 10,000 for down payment on a house and a car.
Are you kidding? I ever found that suitcase jammed in some crack? I wasn't going looking for no reward. That was all going to me.
You found it?
No, I didn't find it. I worked down to the deep end. It was a good 150 feet there. What happened to me was I got swept into the spillway.
The what?
Where the water runs out of the reservoir. I must have caught my head a real crack. I was stuck in a kind of a pipe. I got out of my tanks, and then I passed out. I must have lost my face mask then, too.
Yeah, that's how come the insurance company and everybody else thought you must be drowned. What happened to you?
Well, when I came to, I was lying in some reeds, half buried in the mud. There was blood all over my face. I didn't know where I was. Well, get this, Marge, because it's what counts. I didn't know who I was. And I either got out of the flippers or I had lost them, and all I had on was a pair of swim trunks.
What did you do?
I busted in some house and I got some clothes. And I lit out, hiking. Worked my way west, working odd jobs. And I figured I couldn't keep drifting forever. I had to establish some sort of, what do you call it?
Identity.
Yeah, that's it. Like who I was. I had to be someone. So I joined the service. 6-year hitch. And 2 nights after I'm out, I got hit in the head in a barroom, Brannigan, and pow, I remember who I am. So I figured I'd come home. You and me have some talking to do.
What?
I need a stake, Marge. Some dough. That's one reason I looked you up.
Well, I could let you have $15 or maybe $25.
Come on, don't kid around with me, baby. I said a stake. You know what I'm talking about. Real money. I had to do quite a bit of digging to turn you up when I got back to Ferndale.
You mean other people know you're alive?
Don't panic, doll. I ain't stupid. I may not be long on schooling, Mrs. Miller, but I got what it counts up here.
Mrs. Howard.
Well, now, that's the real question, ain't it? Just whose wife are you?
Well, now, be reasonable, Lou. There isn't any question of that. I mean, you and I were married less than a year. Howard and I have built a life together for nearly 7 years.
What does your husband do at the bank?
He's, a bank officer.
Class job, huh? Pays pretty good, huh?
Banks don't pay that much money.
Not even to senior vice presidents? I told you I've been snooping around a couple of days, sweetheart, so don't try any tricky stuff. Now, let's get down to real business. Just what's it worth to you to keep this happy little home you got all in one piece?
I don't think I have to tell you what it's worth. I have a savings account. I've been saving for years for a trip we wanted to take. If you'll get out of my life again, you can have it.
How much?
It's nearly $3,500.
And where is it?
At the bank.
Your husband's bank?
Yes.
What would you do? Just go there and draw it out?
Yes.
Supposing your husband caught you doing it, how would you explain?
I'll go on his lunch hour. He won't have to see me.
And where will I be?
You can wait here or come with me, whatever you want.
And no cops. No mention of any of this.
Do you think I want anyone to know you're still alive? That no matter how innocent it was, I've been living with another man as his wife when I wasn't really. You think I want Billy mixed up in this? It's a small town, Lou. And a lot of people are smaller, and this happens to be a terribly important time in my husband's life.
Yeah, I gathered from the posters. Running for mayor, ain't he?
I don't want to discuss Howard with you. I just want to do whatever I can from hurting that man I love. So I will go to the bank and get the money, or you can come with me.
All right, let's knock off all the pretty talk and take a real look at where we stand. Now, you're not paying me off with any measly $3,500.
How much do you want?
Something in the neighborhood of 30,000 green ones.
Oh, you must be crazy. We haven't got that kind of...
I had an insurance, Marge, remember? 15,000, double indemnity.
Oh.
They ever pay off?
Well,
Oh, come on, then. Don't try to give me any hard time.
Yes, they did.
So, of course, you blew it all on a new house and goodies. But I'll lay you odds you got a sock full of other dough somewheres. You'll pay off.
Why should we?
Because you've been living with a man you're not legally married to.
I'd get a lawyer's opinion, first of all. And I would be willing to bet right now that no court would hold me or Howard responsible for an honest mistake.
You'd have to give back all that pretty insurance money. You can't collect on a corpse that ain't.
That could be arranged.
Ah, so you do have it socked away.
Whether or not we do is none of your business.
There's another little thought you might have in mind. How many votes do you think it's going to cost your husband for mayor when I make this public?
You're just as much of a louse as I discovered right after I was stupid enough to marry you. Howard will take his chances. I think I can speak for him.
Can you speak for him on everything?
What are you getting at now?
The one other person concerned in all this. Billy.
You leave Billy out of this.
How can we?
He has nothing to do with you.
It was a good try, Marge. But what kind of a lunkhead do you think I am? The first moment I found out there was a kid involved, yesterday, I went and looked up the birth certificate. Oh. Billy ain't no 7 years old. He's 8. Oh. And as stupid as I am, I can count. That makes him my kid.
He doesn't know that, Lou. He thinks Howard is his own father.
Okay, baby, we could leave it that way. Just so you come through with the 30 grand. That's the only way you're going to get rid of me now. Until then, you got a monkey on your back.
Poor Marge. Her relaxed morning has been shattered as thoroughly as her nerves. And deep as the threat to her immediate happiness seems, she has no conception of how vicious and violent her fight to protect her family is going to be. With her head swimming, she looks again at the man sprawled on the couch and hopes that it's only some ghastly dream. I'll return shortly with Act 2. The shock of meeting a husband you have believed dead for over 8 years is enough to numb and scramble anyone's mind. At least Marge found it so. She couldn't believe that Lou was any real danger to breaking up her present family legally, nor that the publicity would mean anything in Howard's campaign. But 2 things did terrify her. The effect it might have on Billy, and a tension, a kind of mad and inhuman quality that underlay everything that Lou said, as though, in some inexplicable way, he was dead inside, that he was a ghost returned from the grave.
You Stay away from Billy.
From my own son?
He's no son of yours.
Like I told you, I seen the birth certificate.
I didn't mean that. I mean he's nothing like you, thank God. And he worships his father. I mean Howard.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Let it go. Don't answer.
Oh, it's Bob Russell's car in the driveway. I can see it from here. They're next door neighbors. They know I'm home.
All right. Go answer. But no tricks or funny business.
Put that pistol away.
So open the door. Find out what he wants. Don't let him come in, or I'll drop him like a bowling pin.
All right, but don't lose your head.
You just worry about your own.
Hi, Marge. Sorry if I disturbed you.
No, I was in the kitchen.
I didn't want to come at all because, to tell you the truth, I thought you might have sneaked back to bed for a nap.
Oh, no, I was just going to get dressed and go marketing.
I know. You're the morning person. That's what Betty calls you. This is all the junk on the community chest Betty promised you.
Oh, that's great.
How's it going? Dragging any formidable loot?
Over 60,000 up to now, and we're only halfway along.
Well, keep it in a safe place.
Uh-huh.
Hey, you feeling all right?
Me? Why?
Well, you look a bit pale, sort of drawn.
Maybe I'm just picking up a little cold.
Yeah. Well, excuse me, I got a customer waiting.
Uh-huh.
60 grand, huh?
Oh, don't get your hopes up, Lou. It's all in small checks, most of them at the bank, and all made out to community chest. Even you couldn't figure a way to get your claws on that money.
All right, you can cut the comedy. I have my own way, and not much more time to waste. I've been figuring while I was waiting for that used car salesman.
Bob's a stockbroker.
I want you to call your husband and get him home here from the bank.
I can't do that.
Well, you better, doll, or I'll lock you in a closet and go down there and bring him back my own way. I got to get all this settled today.
But I can't bring Howard home from the bank. What could I possibly say?
Don't answer it.
That's silly. Why not? What am I going to do? Scream for help?
Just don't answer it. You're out.
But it might be Betty ringing to make sure Bob dropped off the stuff. Oh, that's right. Howard was going to call about us having lunch together.
Damn. Okay, there's an extension in the kitchen, right?
Yes.
I'll be listening. And don't try anything or I'll kill you. Might as well know I have nothing to lose.
Hello?
Darling, it's Howard. I'm calling about lunch.
Where are you whining me?
Well, what was that?
What was what?
Was Billy home? Anyone with you?
Why, no. Why?
It sounded as though someone was on an extension.
Oh, don't be silly about lunch. Why don't we have it here at home?
Well, I'd veto that anyway, but it's what I was calling about. I can't make lunch.
Oh.
I've got to run up to the state capitol, have lunch with a man.
I'm certainly glad it isn't another woman. Couldn't you put it off for today?
I'm sorry, honey, not a chance. See, this guy has got the votes I need in his pocket. I want to be mayor, honey, just long enough to clean up our own little backyard.
I know, dear. So, when will I see you?
Oh, around dinner time. I love you. You take care of yourself.
I love you. Howard.
Why did you let him get away like that?
What could I do?
I'll tell you what you're going to do. Call him back. Get him here.
How?
I don't care how. Tell him you're sick or Billy's sick.
Lou, I can't get away with that
you
now.
You do what I tell you, damn it! Call.
Why can't I tell him the truth?
You want to?
He's got to know sometime.
All right, then tell him here, where I can handle him. And he doesn't get any fancy ideas of ringing in anyone else. Dial.
I'll call his private number. You heard for yourself on the extension.
Yeah. Well, maybe just as well. Now, look. I'm coming back to something. That insurance money.
But it doesn't really exist now you're alive.
Listen to me.
Please. That hurts.
There's a lot more things going to hurt if things don't go my way. Now, first, the insurance money. Where is it? Don't get me mad, baby, or things are going to start getting real rough.
When it finally came through, he put it in a custodian account for Billy.
Now that's real nice. Only Billy doesn't need it anywhere near like his old man does. So I'll tell you what. We got it made. Howard's out of the picture. So you and me will just stroll over to the bank. You can draw out the $30,000 and give it to me, and all our troubles will be over.
That won't work, Lou.
Why not?
Because Howard is the custodian, not me.
Damn. Why does everything have to go sour for me? Now what are we going to do?
I told you, I have a little money in the bank.
Now let's forget that chicken dribble. You don't seem to realize the spot you're in, Marge. I'm no small-time operator anymore. The chips are all down with me, so I can't lose except all the way. So you better listen to me and jump whenever I tell you to.
You don't sound real.
Well, this ain't no ghost story, honey. You're going to have to live with this one. And I'm stuck here until that half-pint husband of yours gets back.
Why don't you go away and come back this evening? I've got a whole day of appointments.
I ain't going nowhere. Neither are you.
But it's just like kidnapping.
You named it, baby. You named it. All we're waiting for now is the payoff. Hey, hold it, Marge. Where do you think you're going?
I was just going to the front door. It's about time for Billy to be coming home from school.
You just stay away from doors. I'll tie you up. I've been on the go so long, I've forgotten what sleep is.
Tie me up?
Yeah. I don't want to take no chances you get some crazy idea taken off. Or calling the police.
With Billy coming home, I wouldn't dare.
To leave him alone with me, huh?
Yes. And why would I call the police? You do have some right to be here.
Look, I'm desperate, Marge. I'm not kidding you anymore. All that guff about getting amnesia and stuck in the spillway, forget it. I was just trying to keep things nice and simple at first.
You found that money in the reservoir all those years ago.
That's right. I was going to take off from you anyway. You and me were a mistake from the beginning.
Oh, that's true enough.
You just wanted kids in a home. I wanted the big time. For a while, I had it. I left my air tank and my face mask bobbing in the middle of the lake, and I swam ashore. I took off for Vegas. Had a run of bad luck, so I blew the $100,000. I had to get even with the tables, so I used a little muscle here and there with the private citizens to keep myself in bread.
You mocked people?
Don't look so holier than thou. I got my comeuppance, if you want to know. 6 of the years since I left you, I spent in security prisons. I won't tell you what for. I'll tell you one thing. The next thing they get me for, if there is to be one, that's it. I'm in for good. So don't make any mistakes about how desperate I am. So get away from that door now. Make me some coffee. And where's the jar?
It's on the way to the kitchen.
Mom. Good. She's in the kitchen. Just get my guns and strap them on. Better hide unless that's the law.
I could use something to eat with a coffee.
All right, Lou.
Who's Lou? Well, Billy, you just gotta find out. Stick 'em up, Lou.
Lou, don't. It's just
I
Billy.
can see who it is. It's the kid.
Gee, you turned and hit the floor fast. That's a good trick.
I'll tell you another good trick, Shrimp. You ever heist anyone and he turns on you, don't you hold back on the trigger ever.
But you were so fast.
I could have put a bullet right through you, kid.
Is that a real gun?
What would I be doing with a real gun? This is just a present for a kid I know.
It sure looks real.
Yeah, so do yours.
Yeah. Who are you?
This is a friend of your Uncle Ralph's, Billy. Right, Lou?
Yeah, that's right. You could call me Lou.
I'm Billy.
Put it there, partner.
Shake.
Your Uncle Ralph just wanted to make sure you liked the guns. So I said I was passing by and I'd stop in and check.
Oh, they're super.
Hi, darling. I was just trying to find the darn key. Who are you?
Unexpected visitor. A friend of the family. Marge's side. She asked me to get the door. She's feeding Billy. Come on in.
Oh, sure. Sorry, it's just it was such a surprise. Have we ever met?
No. Oh, don't let the get-up put you off. I just came off a camping trip.
Oh. Well, you seem to know who I am. You want to tell me who you are?
Sure. Lou Miller.
Lou Miller? But you're dead.
That would make it simple, huh? No matter how scary a ghost is, there are ways of making him disappear. Now, me, Howard, I'm the real McCoy. Like, if you want it right between the eyes, I'm Marge's real husband, and that's my kid inside.
Oh, my God.
Maybe it won't take too much praying to turn me back into a ghost. That's what you and me are going to talk over, Howard. You're the only one with the keys to turn time back again, just the way it was.
A completely stunned Howard can only stare at this specter from the past. A man so evidently his physical superior that he could not solve anything on that level, nor on any other level, as he is about to find out. I'll return shortly with Act 3. Howard is about to have his first meeting with something which neither you nor I, or at least most of us, would be able to handle. Total immorality. And it takes not much longer than a few minutes both to tell Howard the story of Lou, and very little longer to realize that he is dealing with a man who has nothing left to lose. Not even his conscience.
What you suggest to Marge is impossible.
Why?
Because everything, bank books, money, drafts, checks, anything valuable is locked up in the vaults by now.
So? You're executive vice president, aren't you?
Yes.
You got the keys, haven't you?
Well, yes. Once the time lock disengages, which will be, let's see, it's 6 o'clock now, exactly 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
You mean you can't get in there tonight?
You'd need an atom bomb to blow that vault door open.
The first thing tomorrow morning, you could get those bank books and cash in the dough.
Well, I could, but I can't.
Why not?
Because, first of all, the money for the insurance was left in trust to Billy. It could only be spent on him, but that no longer holds either. The money isn't Billy's or anyone's but the insurance company's now.
How come?
It was paid in good faith because you were presumed to be dead. And you are quite manifestly alive.
Now, look, don't give me none of that lawyer double talk. Who knows I'm alive, except you and me and Marge?
Look, suppose I did go along with you. As soon as you'd leave, what's to stop me from going to the police and telling them what's happened?
For this chicken feed, not much. Wouldn't be worth coming back to put a bullet hole through your head, or Marge's, or the kids.
Your own son?
Who wants him? I never did. One big reason I lit out. You're welcome to him.
Daddy. Why didn't you come in and see me as soon as you got home?
Well, I knew you were eating dinner. We have a visitor.
He heard his father's voice, and there was no holding him.
Want to see some of the tricks Uncle Lou's been showing me with my gun?
Uncle?
Lou's a friend of Ralph's, Howard, and just sort of got made an honorary uncle.
It's all right, Marge. I know who Lou is.
Oh, the twirly parts I'm not so good at yet because my hands are kind of small, and I haven't had enough practice, Lou says. But I'll show you one thing he taught me. Turn around, Lou.
Billy, I really think...
It's okay, Marge. Let the kid have his fun. Okay, I'm turning my back. I don't know you're there.
Stick 'em up.
Ah, you got me. Dead center.
See, Daddy? See? If you're going to heist a guy and he starts to turn on you, hit the trigger right away.
That's what Uncle Lou taught you?
If you don't want to find yourself dead.
But supposing the other man doesn't have a pistol?
Who takes chances? Besides, Billy knows I have one. Still there, you see?
That's not a real pistol either.
Oh, of course it isn't. Who'd have a real pistol in this house?
Can we play some more now?
Nope, Billy. That's enough. Time for bed. Let's go.
But I don't want to go to bed. I want to play some more.
It's time, son.
Oh, well, okay. You'll come up and say goodnight too, Uncle Lou.
Sure. If you take off right now with your mother.
Okay, chum. Up the wooden hill.
You always say that. It's a staircase.
It's what my mother always used to say to me.
He's a cute kid. You wouldn't think it, but I really go for kids. And them for me. Him and me can have a real ball this weekend.
You're not welcome in this house.
What's the matter, Howard, boy? You afraid I'm going to let Billy know you ain't his real father?
For his sake. It would be better for your son not to have his whole life shaken up.
Well, I got news for you. If you and Marge don't play things my way, his whole family's going to get shook right out of sight. Now go pour me a shot till we get the kid out of this, and I can lay out for you and Marge just how we're going to play this thing.
You can't ask me to rob my own bank.
I ain't asking, I'm telling you. On Monday morning, once that time lock's off, you pack a suitcase with $250,000. And don't go writing down serial numbers. And keep the bills as small as you can.
But what's the point? You can't get away with it.
I'll be sitting here with Marge and Billy and little Bertha here. Anything goes wrong with the outline I already gave you, anything, you're suddenly out a wife and a kid, right?
But no matter how much time we try to set up for you, your getaway, the police will be right on your trail.
How, Howie boy, how? I'm dead, remember? I don't even exist. Who'd be looking for me?
When we tell our story.
Don't you see it all, Howard? Do you think any of us is going to be alive after...
Who the devil is that? What kind of a double cross is this? That's a sheriff.
Now, look, don't lose your head. He's an old friend. He could have stopped by for a dozen reasons.
Oh, one of them better not be me. Now, listen, both of you. I'm going upstairs with Billy. You leave all the doors open. If anything goes wrong, let me tell you both, this is a real gun. And the first shot I fire goes right through the kid's head.
Your own son? What kind of a man are you?
The kind neither of you patsies would like to find out about. Open up and get rid of him.
Hey, Jim.
The lights are on.
Just sitting down to dinner.
Well, this won't take long, but I'd like to step inside.
Sure.
Hi, Marge.
Hello, Jim.
Everything okay?
Of course. Why not?
Well, I don't know. You just don't look yourself. You're always so full up of the old get up and go.
Oh, that I think I got a touch of the flu.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's going around these days. I got 2 deputies out with it. Or else if they got a couple of girlfriends, my phone tabs haven't turned up.
Maybe there's a gap in the tape. Jim, Marge sort of had dinner on the table practically, so,
Oh, sure. But what I have to say can be said quickly. Maybe shouldn't be said at all, but you're 2 old friends of mine not to. That's a flyer just came in this morning to the sheriff's office. Here. You 2 have a gander at it. You don't have to read all the writing. I'll give you the gist. That there's a picture of John Clemens, wanted for armed robbery and the killing of a policeman in California. Out on parole from Soledad State Security Prison. Alumnus of Joliet, armed, dangerous, to be approached with caution. 3 former suspected murders. Will shoot to kill. Nothing to lose. Because when he's taken this time, he goes up the river the rest of the way.
I don't know any John Clemens.
Nor I.
But if his name wasn't John Clemens, wouldn't you know him? If his name was maybe Lou Miller?
But Lou's dead.
Lou isn't dead. This guy Clemens was in the service. I got a set of his fingerprints from there. And 8 years ago, when Lou swore on as deputy to dive in the reservoir looking for the money that got stolen, he had to record a full set of fingerprints.
No, sir. I'm sorry to have to say it for many reasons. They're the same guy. Lou Miller is still alive.
Well, all right. Now, look, suppose he is. What's that got to do with us?
I don't know. Maybe nothing. But there is Billy, and this guy is on the run and desperate. Just in case, I'm going to give you some protection. Can I use the phone?
Well, what for?
Well, he might turn up here. I'm going to cover you for a while with a 24-hour guard.
Okay, everyone, freeze. Don't anybody make even one little move.
So you beat me to it, Lou.
You always move too slow, Jim. March, Howard, get back in that corner.
Lou, don't lose your head.
That's just what I'm planning to keep. Come on, move. That's better. Okay, Jim. Just face me like you are, and very slow and easy slip the buckle and drop your gun belt. That's it. Right on the floor. That's right. Now, you got any rope, heavy cord, wire, adhesive tape in the house? Come on. You know I ain't got nothing to lose by now. Want me to shoot you instead of tying you up?
I just bought some new rope for... what difference does it make? It's in the kitchen closet.
Okay, everyone. Now just let's move out to the kitchen. Careful. Real careful. That's it. Just keep moving. Don't try anything. Into the kitchen, that's it. Now, I'm just staying here in the door. Marge, you sit at the table. You too, Sheriff. Howard, fetch the rope.
Stick 'em up.
Marge!
See, I did it right again, Uncle Lou.
Billy, where did you get that gun?
Well, you took mine away, and then you were all playing games, and everybody else was having fun, so I came downstairs, and I found this heavy old gun by the living room door. Gosh, it makes a loud bang, doesn't it, Uncle Jim?
Well, it sure does, Billy. Marge, why don't you take Billy back to bed?
But I want to say goodnight to Uncle Lou.
Billy, son, don't spoil the game. Uncle Lou's just playing possum to make you look real good. Now, don't spoil his game, huh? How is he, Sheriff?
Bullet got him right in the spine. Too late for the ambulance.
How is he, Howard?
This time he's gone for good. Did you get Billy to bed?
Yes. What's going to happen to us now? Howard, what have I brought on you?
We'll weather it, Marge.
But the whole story will come out now. And I'm not thinking about us. But what it'll do to Billy. What a thing to grow up with.
Just a minute, you two. Isn't there a quote somewheres about God moving in a mysterious way his wonders to perform?
Well, that's almost the exact quote, but...
Main thing, it seems to me, in all this is to keep Billy from being all broke up over what was an accident.
Jim, when this story breaks in the papers, how can it be kept from Billy?
The question is first, can it be kept out?
How?
Of course, there's got to be a story. A man is dead. But a story about what man?
I don't understand you.
You're returning that insurance money to the company, of course, Howard.
Well, naturally.
So now let's take a good, hard look at the rest of it. Now, I intend to have a long talk with Judge Markham. Now, I can't answer for him, of course, but I've known him all our lives. Now, if I was in his place, here's the way I see it. This man's legal name is John Clemens. He's been using that name for over 8 years. He's a known killer. There's a statewide alarm out for him. So now, here's me, the sheriff, an old friend of yours, visiting for the evening, when this John Clemens tries to pull off a heist. 2 shots are fired, one from my gun, one from his. The one from my gun kills this John Clemens. So, where does Lou Miller figure in this? A man already dead 8 years?
You mean Billy, the whole time, doesn't have to know exactly what he's done?
It was an accident, Marge.
Oh.
The child has no idea what he's doing. Who'd want to place this burden on his shoulders? Like I say, it's not my decision, thank God. But I'd hoped, Judge Markham feel about it, that you only get a chance to live once. Seems fair enough to me. The best you ought to have is, like him, one chance to die.
What would you do? What would I do? Faced with a decision like this. Open up an old, closed Pandora's box and saddle an 8-year-old child with a swarm of circumstances he's not equipped to handle and mark him for life? Or leave the alternative truth that a man who chose another life and another name and who long deserved to die finally met his comeuppance, killed by a bullet fired in self-defense. Perhaps the sheriff said it best. God moves in mysterious ways. I'll be back shortly. At 8 years old, there are ghosts and goblins, mysterious figures that move through trees, phantom ghosts that can leap into the mind and spin it flying the wrong way. But time goes by, and a boy grows up, and with 2 understanding parents and a sheriff who opens his files to let a young man read the truth of his background, Billy can accept his father for what he was and thank his lucky stars for the foster one his mother provided for him. Our cast included Joan Lorring, Joseph Julian, Tom Keena, Dan Ocko, and Hetty Galen. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown.
Now, a preview of our next tale.
What's the matter? A matter? The way you look when you opened that letter. Mary, what is it?
Now, let me see that letter.
No, Claudia. I'll just give it to Mr. Hammond when
Mary, please, let me have that letter.
All right.
What? Mary, did you read this?
Well, I glanced at it enough to...
Todd, dearest, of course I love you as deeply, passionately as you love me. And you're right. Claudia does stand between us. So, dearest heart, I've changed my mind. I will go along with your plan to put her out of the way. Signed, Margot.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Sign-Off, the sinus medicines. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.